Oh, we can do way better than that. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh my gosh, we're so excited to see you today. Thank you so much for carving out just a little bit of your day to celebrate with us. We are starting something new this year that we haven't done before. For ages and ages and ages and ages, the Board of Education has passed resolutions honoring and celebrating everything in Montgomery County. Special months, special weeks, special days, special people, special events, special championships. But we haven't really tied those to celebrations until this year. So we're very excited for you to be a part of some special recognitions and some celebrations. April is a very exciting month. It's a month of profound reflection across the district. We're proud to celebrate during the week of April 19th through the 26th, National Volunteer Week, where we recognize the dedicated organizations and individuals who selflessly make contributions of their time and talents to serve as the vital heartbeat of MCPS. We also celebrate during the week of April 24th through the 30th, which is this week, National School Leadership Week, where we celebrate and support our aspiring young leaders who are actively shaping the future of our community through their service, integrity, and vision. And we also have some very special recognitions today because we have had a very successful winter season and we get to honor several state champions tonight. So to kick us off, it is my pleasure to introduce our board member, Julie Yang, who will begin this afternoon's presentations. Julie?
Good afternoon. So you are the highlight of our 10-hour board meeting day, okay? So let's savor this moment. Let's savor this moment. And good afternoon, I'm Julie Yang. Thank you for joining us for such a meaningful event. And I'm honoring, together with my colleagues, the volunteers. You know, we all talk about education being the team sport. And this is the spirit. The volunteers are such an important part for us. Many of our board members, including Ms. Wolf here and I, am excluding Ms. Natalie, we started our journey with the school system probably as a volunteer, as a parent, right? Or grandparent, and that's how we started our journey with our school system. And here are two things in Montgomery County. Number one, in a few years, we will have more people 65 and above than people 18 and under in Montgomery County. That's fact number one. So how do we, as a society, connect our generations? And another fact of Montgomery County is we have an increasingly more demonstrated needs in our school systems. We all know we have over 40 or 45% of our students on farm. We have an increasing number of students that need services, can benefit of the wraparound services in our community. So one thing we keep thinking about, and I think about, is if this is the team sport, if you bring people in, and when people see what happened and can contribute, can connect, when they understand and when they believe in what you do, you become strong partners in this work together to move us forward as a community. And one of the organizations that's truly doing this meaningful work is Empowering the Ageist. And they're sitting right here, and they are connecting these two populations together, and they are creating a Montgomery County that where we all call this home and building this community together, whether you have students in our system or not. So I want to highlight some of their wonderful people and the work that they do. Okay, so first, I want them to come up to the front, okay? This organization, fantastic organization, is led by Leah Bradley. Leah? Yes, all right. Okay. And they do this work. They provide their volunteers, their older adults, are paired with students to provide mentorship, academic support, and meaningful connections. Their impact can be felt across of our schools, including Magruder High School, which I see its principal sitting right there, and then Harmony Hill Elementary School, Flower Hills Elementary School, Diamond Elementary School, principals right there, where students not only benefit from their help academically, but socially and emotionally. What this hasn't mentioned is I also know that they do financial literacy in our schools, and there are multiple schools in high schools that you do those classes. So thank you so much. Now, I also want to highlight Principal Daniel Water from Diamond Elementary School with a record of more than 1,400 hours of volunteer hours. And the volunteer is Yolika Barrera Lavada. Did I say that correct? Okay, did I butcher that? Okay. And then also at Kensington Parkwood Elementary School, volunteer we want to highlight is Casey Murray. Is Casey here? No, she cannot make it today, but she is dynamite at the Kensington Parkwood. Now from Rockwood High School, we have Sally Cameron. Is Sally here? Okay, so, and also Flower Valley Elementary School, we have Vinola Lennon. Is Vinola here? All right, not here, all right. And then, so these are the people who have helped enrich our students' life, support teachers and the students. And then, Magruder principal should come up, you know, and as a
Flower Hill principal and Harmony Hills here.
They are all here? Yeah. Okay, the principals, Josh Fine is right here. I didn't see you. Okay, that's Flower Hill and Harmony Hill. Who's the principal of Harmony? Right there. Okay, all right, so come on up. Well, let's give them a hearty round of applause. See, and then Gloria from the community school. So this is what it is. And okay, so Thomas and everyone, so this is what it is. I know I see other principals at the backs. Sometimes, truthfully, we understand it is more work for the administration and for the staff too when we have volunteer, right? You have to bring everybody on board. You have to coordinate with everyone and show everyone the ropes in your classroom and in your school. So this is a joint effort. And we need to have a yes attitude to collaboration because we know it enriched everyone's life on our campus. So thank you, everyone.
One more. Doing a smile right here. The best smile. 3, 2. Okay, thank you all.
And who better to present on National Student Leadership Week than our student member of the board, Anuva Maloo.
All right, I'm very excited for this week's celebration. So, as we celebrate National Student Leadership Week, I am honored to recognize the incredible student leaders across Montgomery County who serve as the heartbeat of our school community. This week is a powerful reflection of our Board of Education's core value of equity as we work to ensure that every student, regardless of their background, has a platform to advocate for their peers and shape their own educational journey. Recognizing today, we have my friends, Haley, Montgomery County Regional Student Government Association's president from Richard Montgomery High School. Please come up here. Dandy, a senior from Rockville High School, who is the administrator for 2 years of the Special Elections Committee throughout Montgomery County. Krish, who is the first vice president and a student at Poolsville High School for the Maryland Associations of Student Councils. And finally, unfortunately, she cannot make it today, but Tracy, who is the head of Students Fair as the vice president from Watkins Mill High School. Can we give them a huge round of applause? And a huge thanks to Ms. Shella Cherry for leading our school district student leadership programs. Ms. Rice for helping coordinate with many of our student election committees. And Ms. Dean, who I believe that I saw as well, who is the head of our Montgomery County Junior Council and so many other student organizations. By stepping into leadership roles, my fellow students embody the value of excellence, proving that leadership isn't just about a title, it's about collaboration required to solve problems and the respect shown for the diverse hallways within our school system. To my peers, your courage to lead, your commitment to service are not just preparing you for the future, they're making our schools better right now. Can we give them a huge round of applause? Okay, photo time. Photo time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Vice President of the Board of Education, Brenda Wolf.
Gotta get my eyes. So, I don't know if you all have been following our meetings, but at this point, I've become quite the sports enthusiast. And today is my favorite kind of celebration. Today, we take immense pride in celebrating our state championship athletic teams, programs that didn't just win games, but made history. Who knows, my term is up in December, and I am moving on to being a sportscaster, so look for me. But today, our athletic champions are something special. Some of them are even cementing legacy, bringing home the first ever state championship in any sport for their schools. So with that being said, can I call all of our athletic champions? Please come on up now. Well, I don't know. It's so many of you.
So unfair. You get music.
Yeah. Come on. Get the music going. We haven't got nothing yet. We need this music to get us in the beat. All right. Come on. Y'all got to come in some. Come on. Okay. All right. Okay, we're ready. Look at them. Don't they look great? Starting on the mats, Whitman Co-ed Wrestling went 17-0 and became 3-time state champions, dominating every bracket they stepped into. Quince Orchard Girls Wrestling made history with the first state title in program history, powered by a 21-second championship pin from Amira I don't want to mess up your name. Abigessa? Abigessa. Good. In a moment they'll never forget. On the court, Whitman girls basketball went undefeated, sharing the ball, setting assist records, and showing what true team basketball looks like. You go, girls. And Blake boys. Now, you know Blake is in District 5, which I represent. Blake boys basketball broke through to win the school's first ever state championship in any sport, finishing 25-1 and delivering when it mattered most, leaving a legacy at their school. To be standing right here, you all truly have to have the eye of the tiger, because you didn't just compete. You wrestled for every point, passed for every bucket, and fought for every possession. You didn't wait for moments, you made them. Congratulations to all of our champions. You didn't just make history, you set it. All right, come on, we gotta try to figure out how to get all of us in one picture frame.
To stand on top. So you.
I think you're gonna have to triple row it here some kind of way.
Nice and tight.
I'm coming, I'm just trying to get our board.
Nice and tight, like y'all go to school together.
Grace.
Can we get the younger ones here, and then you guys are all young, you have good knees. Get on your knees up here, please.
All right, good luck with that.
We all need to move.
And then adults behind them.
We're gonna stand.
If I get down on my knees,
Exactly.
Coaches, she wants coaches back here. Go back.
Yeah, well, behind them too. Behind them would work, right? Yeah, behind them. This way, this way.
We're staying with the adults. We're not gonna. No.
Come on in here. Oh, all right. Coaches are going in front of the table. That's not what the first person said. Now we're going in front of the table.
Look in the front.
Yeah, exactly.
Excited.
It's like a dance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just. No, I Becky.
One, two, three, go.
Okay, on three, MCPS champions, okay? 1, 2, 3. MCPS champions! Okay, another one, because it's making my MCPS champion and nice celebration.
Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate you, student athletes, for coming. Parents, thank you for driving. And thank you for being a part of our celebrations today. Our board meeting will start momentarily.
afternoon, buenas tardes, and welcome to the April 30th, 2026 Board Business Meeting. Welcome to our board members, MCPS staff, and members of our community who are joining us here today, and to those who are watching this meeting via live stream, like my mom, Graciela. Hola, mami. Let us begin, please, by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is in the back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. I'm now going to ask my colleagues to please introduce themselves. I'm going to start on my right.
Good afternoon, Laura Stewart here from District 4.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. Carla Silvestre, School Board Member at Large.
Julie Yang, District 3, great to see everyone.
Good afternoon, Brenda Wolf, District 5.
Good afternoon, Natalie Zimmerman. I represent District 2.
Good afternoon, Anuva Malou, student member.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous and it passes. Thank you very much, colleagues. Moving on to a really great part of the agenda that makes you smile. Okay, so this is appointments, and Dr. Taylor, take it away.
Thank you, Madam President. 'Tis the season. We are beginning our annual sojourn to appoint outstanding administrators to serve Montgomery County and our school system, and I am so excited to make several introductions for the board's consideration today. When I call your name, if you could please stand while I say some wonderful things about you, and the board considers your appointment, they'll vote, and we'll all get a chance to applaud and welcome our fantastic new leaders to the school system. First for consideration is Mr. Donald J. Connolly, for the position of Director in the Department of Planning and Construction in the Division of Facilities Management. Joining him today are his parents, his wife, and his 2 sons. Mr. Connolly, affectionately known as DJ to all of us, has been employed with MCPS for 18 years as a substitute, a para-educator, resource conservation assistant, planner, senior planner, team leader, and most recently as the acting director of the Department of Planning and Construction. He is looking forward to working closely with staff, students, and school community partners to ensure that we provide a safe, high-quality learning environment that is centered around student success. And those who have gotten a chance to know Mr. Connolly very well, he is intimately involved in our capital improvements plan development. Prior to beginning his career, he spent 13 years with MCPS as a student, attending Waters Landing Elementary School, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School, and Seneca Valley High School. Shout outs to his friends, co-workers, nieces, nephews, in-laws, and outlaws who are watching online.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There is a motion. Sorry, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. DJ, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Dr. Taylor, can I just add that he has little DJ 1 and little DJ 2 behind him? They're adorable.
Yes, and the facility squad is well represented with a cheering section today. Next for consideration is Dr. Augustine Kang for the position of Supervisor of Environmental Literacy and Outdoor Environmental Education in the Department of Teaching and Academic Programs in the Division of Teaching and Learning. Joining him today is his amazing wife, Susan, and Dr. Joshua Fine, his principal at Flower Hill Elementary School. Dr. Kang has been employed with MCPS for 20 years as a teacher, science content specialist, and most recently as the assistant principal at Flower Hill Elementary School. He looks forward to joining the outdoor education team to help elevate student and community understanding of our impact on the environment and to help create current and future environmental stewards. Shout outs to Dr. Fine for guiding and developing him through his leadership journey at the Hill.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There is a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Congratulations, Dr. King.
I think the facility team also cheer for this one.
Yeah, how about that?
As it should be.
We've got another doctor in the house. Next for consideration is a familiar face and an award-winning leader. Next for consideration is another doctor in the house and a familiar face to us. She is an award-winning leader in the school system. Dr. LaFay Howard for the position of principal at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. Joining her today is her husband, Jermaine, her daughters, Dakota and Brooklyn, and Mr. John Taylor, her principal at Winston Churchill High School. Dr. Howard has been employed with MCPS for 24 years as a teacher, content specialist, staff development teacher, and most recently as an assistant principal at Winston Churchill High School. She is also the current Maryland Assistant Principal of the Year for the entire state. She looks forward to joining the team at BCC and the Bethesda Chevy Chase school community and is committed to leading with vision, equity, and excellence to support the growth and achievement of all students.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Congratulations, Dr. Howard.
Right down the street from Dr. LaFay Howard's new school is Miss Michelle Asema for the position of principal at Westbrook Elementary School. Joining her today is her mother, Irene, brother, Michael, and partner, Joshua Reynolds. Ms. Asema has been with MCPS for 15 years as a teacher, academic interventionist, teacher, a reading specialist, an assistant principal, a coordinator, a principal intern, and most recently as the acting principal at Westbrook Elementary School. She looks forward to continuing her work with her amazing staff, families, and students who consistently come together to create a positive impact on the lives of others and to ensure that every student in the Westbrook community receives the experience grounded in excellence, inclusion, and joy. Shout outs to her principal developers and mentors, her wonderful director, Dr. Zarchin, and the Asema and Reynolds families in New York, along with her friends and family across the United States and Nigeria.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Congratulations, Mrs. Asema.
And our last appointment for consideration today is Miss Diana Hayden for the position of principal at Tacoma Park Elementary School. Joining her today is her husband, Roy Pittman, her daughter, Alicia Nash, her sisters, April Fennell and Keita Lockerman, her brother, Nicholas Fennell, and her mother, Yolanda Hayden. Ms. Hayden has been employed with MCPS for 4 years as an assistant principal and most recently a principal intern at Tacoma Park Elementary School. Maybe you're noticing a pattern, everybody. She is honored to continue her leadership journey as a Tacoma Park Dolphin and looks forward to supporting the growth and success of her school community. Shout outs to her sisters and to her son, Antoine, who is watching from Atlanta. Special gratitude goes to the Highland View family that raised her, specifically Hannah Yim, Kelly, Mo, and Jasmine, and to her new family at Tacoma Park Elementary School.
Motion to approve?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Hayden.
Thank you, Madam President. This concludes administrative appointments for this meeting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. As our folks move out of the room, we're going to start our part of public comments. And if there are any members from our association, if they'd like to come forward, now would be the time. Okay. Seeing none, public comments is one of our opportunities to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. Board members will take your comments into consideration, but it is not our practice to take action at this time on issues that are raised. We encourage public input on policy, program, and practices. This is not the proper avenue to address specific student or employee matters, so we encourage everyone to utilize existing avenues of redress for complaints. This is a public meeting, and we expect the conduct of all speakers and members of the audience to be within the bounds of proper etiquette. Inappropriate personal remarks, rude retorts, or other such behavior is out of order and will not be tolerated. Those who demonstrate disruptive or disrespectful behavior during public comments may be asked to leave the room. Please check our website for information about upcoming board meetings, hearings, and work sessions, including any changes to our meeting start times. We have 15 people signed up to provide in-person testimony. Each speaker will receive 2 minutes for comments. When your name is called, please approach the table, speak clearly and directly into the microphone, identify yourself, and then 30 seconds prior to the expiration of a speaker's time, a yellow light will go on, accompanied by a beep. A red light and a buzzer signals that your time has expired. Please push the flop button below the microphone to turn it on and begin speaking. Push the same button once more at the sound of the buzzer to turn it off. In addition to our in-person speakers, today we will have 2 people signed up to provide video and audio testimony. We will play these submissions once the in-person testimonies have concluded. Copy of the testimonies can be found on board docs where they are posted with the other materials of the meeting. We also have 2 additional speakers, I believe, and those will be called at the end of the video testimony. With that, I'm going to call your name, so please come up to the table. Alana Applebaum, Aaron Atkinson, Hemley Wang, Ethan Bagama, Julie Daniel, and Daniel Ortiz. So we have 2 folks missing. So let me take, is Alana Applebaum here? There you are, thank you. Is Aaron Atkinson here? Hello. Is Henlin Wang? No. Ethan Badgama? Hello, Ethan. Julie Daniel? Okay, and Daniel Ortiz is not here, I guess. Okay, so those are the folks. All right, Ms. Alana, if you can start, please.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Alana Applebaum, and I am a junior at Walt Whitman High School and a member of the MCPS Student Climate Action Council. We are an MCPS-sanctioned group of 18 council members and over 180 ambassadors working to advance sustainability initiatives and create a greener school system. In the 3 years since our inception, we've successfully held town halls attended by over 150 students to gather input on student priorities, consulted student athletes, experts, and government officials in writing a report recommending against the implementation of artificial turfs, and constructed a comprehensive climate change action plan to hold MCPS accountable to its greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals. We would like to thank the board for allocating the SCAC funding and the tentatively adopted operating budget for next school year. We plan to use these resources to launch student sustainability grants, which would allow students to carry out environmental initiatives at their schools. We are also currently organizing a Student Sustainability Summit for May of this year to educate students on local environmental issues and connect them with ways to get involved, but we've had to limit scope to our complete lack of funding this year, and this is the only event we're able to hold. We urge the board to retain the SCAC's position in next year's operating budget when it passes in June. The more funding that's designated to the council, the more student projects we'll be able to fund and the more events we'll be able to plan to gather student input and spread awareness on local environmental issues. We've already proven our effectiveness and efficiency, and we just need the resources to expand our impact. We also ask that this funding be annual and renewable, with the ability to partially carry over between fiscal years to support multi-phase project development and ensure continuity in programming. Thank you so much for your inclusion of the SCAC in the proposed budget and for your time today.
Thank you so much. Ms. Herron.
Good afternoon, Dr. Taylor and members of the board. My name is Erin Atkinson, and I am here testifying as to why regional magnet programs are not the right solution to inequity in MCPS, and in fact only create more. Implementing a regional model for magnet programs would water down our current competitive programs, create something that MCPS doesn't have the funds or resources to do in the proposed time period, and widen the educational gap between zip codes and economic status. I'm a freshman in Richard Montgomery's IB program. To say that the program has changed my academic life is an understatement. Not only that, but the program has introduced me to so many like-minded, driven students across the county who encouraged me to become the best version of myself. However, if I had been just 2 years younger, this opportunity would be taken from me. I would be going to the Region 1 magnet school. The county will be widening the selection pool to 80+ percentile map, watering down the programs and losing the competitive advanced rigor of our current magnet programs. Additionally, the level of teachers and classes will not compare to our current magnet programs at RM, Blair, and Poolesville. On top of that, adding 96 new programs throughout MCPS and overseeing them all is simply unachievable. The change would cost at least $3.6 million in the first year of implementation. Putting a microscopic 2-year time limit without thoroughly planning or disclosing staffing, funding, and oversight means that each individual program will be left in the dark. The proposed model shifts a noble purpose of achieving equity in MCPS, but does the opposite. There is no proof that the model would significantly increase diversity, especially when limiting it at RM. Right now, MCPS high schools give students the free opportunity to attend high-level magnet programs without paying and give them a high-quality education. Of course, equity should be sought. Thank you. Okay. While this testimony might not change the outcome, please note that when student and community voices are left behind in your policies, we will continue to speak out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ishan, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Board of Education members. My name is Ishan Vidgama, and I'm a freshman at Richard Montgomery High School. I'm speaking today regarding the decision to replace countywide magnet access with 6 regional magnet programs. For years, the Richard Montgomery IB program has brought together students from across Montgomery County. It created an environment where students from different neighborhoods, backgrounds, and perspectives learn together. Under this plan, many students who are willing and qualified to attend Richard Montgomery will no longer have that chance simply because of where they live. The regional IB model has already been tested in Montgomery County. 7 years ago, MCPS launched 3 regional IB programs. Today, all 3 are under-enrolled. The worst performing had only a 24% IB passing rate in 2024, while Richard Montgomery had a 99%. This doesn't show a minor gap, but emphasizes the failure of execution and the effects it had on real students. The public sees this. The Washington Post reported that the Kennedy IB program lacked resources and experienced teachers to replicate ARM's results. The teachers' union called this approach the illusion of equity without real equity, basically saying programs created in name only. Now, instead of fixing what has failed, this board has voted to repeat the same model 6 times simultaneously with no public budget and no public staffing plan released to date. Making ARM regional means students across this county who are willing to travel, willing to work, and willing to compete for a spot simply cannot anymore. This is not expanding access, that is restricting it. No student who comes after me should have to settle for a lesser program because of their zip code. I ask this board to pause implementation, release a full public plan, and meaningfully involve students, families, and educators before moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Julie Daniel?
Good afternoon, Dr. Taylor and members of the board. My name is Julie Daniel, and I'm a freshman at Richard Montgomery High School. This new decision regarding the implementation of a regional model will significantly harm students and the county overall because it weakens academic excellence in current programs, limits social interactions and sharing of perspectives between students, and is a principally premature and poorly planned execution. The current programs, such as the Richard Montgomery IB Magnet program, which I attend, have been built and improved over several decades, curated with the best staff and curriculum to best meet the needs of high-rigor IB students. Dismantling this program would not only undo years of hard work, but it would also diminish the high academic standards and performance in Richard Montgomery and other competitive programs, such as the Poolsville STEM program. For example, Richard Montgomery students average a 1350 on the SATs and an average of 31 on the ACTs, while Kennedy students average a 1060 and an ACT of 21. Bridging this resource, staffing, and educational gap cannot be done 6 times over in just 2 years. In 7 weeks, I will finish my first year of the IB Magnet program. I've met some of my closest friends from across the county through the program, and it's truly changed my outlook on academics and the real world. My classmates have willingly left their home schools for better opportunities and challenges. That's what this program is worth to them. Why should we take this opportunity away from students who are willing to go the distance, especially when their regional programs are simply not equal? Additionally, this program is only effective in theory and will remain that way until data is given and plans are made concrete. Many students within the IB program right now had no idea this was happening, and many were not asked for their input. Neither were parents. This plan has not been communicated or decided upon with the very people it impacts. No public budget has been released, nor has a staffing plan, and so my question to you is how will you manage all 6 openings and keep the programs running equally when it's never worked before? The bottom line is the new regional plan significantly undermines the hard work invested in our current programs and limits student opportunity to grow from diverse perspectives. Moreover, this plan is poorly conceived and lacks the necessary data and planning regarding staff, students, and parents, which is simply unacceptable.
Your time is up, sweetheart. Thank you, but we do have your testimony.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate all you coming. Thank you. We're going to be calling the next 6 speakers. If you hear a name, please come up to the table. Sandy Lanke, Elise Burnt, Narisa Johnson, Emily Apel, Regan Kelly, and Kieran McMillan. Okay, if we can start with Ms. Lanke, please.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Education and Dr. Taylor. My name is Sanvi Longke, and I'm an 8th grade student at Shady Grove Middle School and an upcoming student in the Richard Montgomery IB program. A few weeks ago, I asked a simple question regarding the regional magnet programs. How much will this new regional magnet plan cost? I was told there would be no additional cost, but respectfully, that does not reflect reality. Hiring specialized teachers, building new programs, and launching 6 magnets at once requires significant investment. If MCPS is already facing funding challenges, how can we ensure these programs will match the quality of what already exists? I completely support the goal of equity. It is undeniable that students across this county do not at all have the same access to the same opportunities. But equity is not achieved by removing access to successful programs. We should instead expand opportunities in underserved areas while maintaining what already works for students. Right now, this plan replaces a system that works with one that is unproven on a very short timeline without a clear public plan for staffing, funding, or implementation. 7 years ago, regional IB programs were added for the same goal. Those programs have struggled to achieve the same success as RM due to staffing and funding issues. So I ask, what is different about this time? As students, we can see the gaps that will only deepen if we move forward without adequate resources. We keep hearing this is a process, but a real process means providing a clear plan for students, teachers, and parents alike. Since this plan is already approved, I ask, establish measurable standards to ensure that every program meets the same level of rigor and opportunity. Slow down and make sure this is done right. I know you've heard hundreds of student voices on this issue, but I ask, please take these words to heart. If we get this wrong, we risk deepening the inequities on a larger scale. But if we get it right, we have the opportunity to truly strengthen education in this county. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Elise Burnt.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Elise Barrett, and I'm a 9th grader enrolled in the IB program at Richard Montgomery High School. I'm here in direct opposition to the MCPS Regional Magnet Program change. The IB program at Richard Montgomery has truly changed my life. I've met the most academically driven students, and their influence has made me strive for a brighter future. Implementation of multiple regional magnet programs in MCPS will drastically reduce the competitiveness and prestige of the program, therefore discouraging students from participating. The competitive countywide magnet programs are irreplicable, and the level of excellence at these schools cannot be achieved in 2 years with current funding, staffing, and other issues surrounding the boundary study. Equity and accessibility is fundamental to the success of MCPS. However, this assigned regional magnet program is not the way to achieve it. Richard Montgomery has been a competitive countywide IB program for decades, and regional MCPS magnet programs dilute the excellence and high level of education embedded into these schools. Furthermore, there is no reliable, effective plan to implement the proposed changes that has been publicly disclosed. It's unfeasible to replicate the high level of education that students receive at countywide magnet programs multiple times over. This decision to completely uproot the magnet program was a decision made for students, but not with students. MCPS prides itself on student involvement and listening to student concerns, but this decision completely demolishes all student insight and involvement. I know that this decision is irreversible, but I hope that in the future the board is able to truly take into account students' perspectives. It's more than unfortunate that younger generations will not get the same opportunity that I was given. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Ms. Narisa Johnson.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Narisa Johnson, and I am a longtime DCC parent. I'm here today to urge the board to support adopting the Amplify Desmos math curriculum for our K-8 students. With 18 years under my belt as an MCPS parent and 7 more years to go, I'm here because I feel obligated to ensure that no student has to deal with negative learning experiences that are the result of subpar curriculum. So why select Amplify? It stands out in the way it's designed, especially in how the curriculum engages students in real thinking. Students aren't just memorizing procedures. They're explaining, discussing, and making sense of math together. That kind of learning builds confidence and lasting understanding. As a parent, I appreciate a well-designed curriculum that promotes deep understanding and makes math seem fun and approachable. Just as importantly, Amplify is designed to support all learners, including multilingual learners. The visuals, structured discourse, and multiple entry points make math more accessible, not less. As an IM-based curriculum, this makes extensive use of teachers' existing IM experience and leverages best practices. As a parent, I support a curriculum that promotes accessibility. That said, having a strong curriculum alone isn't enough. Successful implementation will require more than a day dedicated to teacher and leader training on all new materials. Teacher support must be continuous, and an appropriate amount of time must be allowed for planning. Ongoing progress monitoring is also vital. Finally, there needs to be commitment to minimizing the variability in how a curriculum is implemented and taught at every school in our district. As a parent, I support what it takes to ensure that a curriculum is implemented successfully. If we adopt, amplify, and invest in implementation, we have a real opportunity to significantly improve math outcomes for all students. As a parent, I support the selection of a high-quality and thoughtful math curriculum that leads to significant gains in student achievement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. April.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Emily Appel, and I'm a parent of 2 elementary school students in the Clarksburg cluster. Professionally, I support districts and states with curriculum adoption and implementation, and I'm here to support the adoption of Amplify Desmos Math, both because it's a strong curriculum and because we need to be clear about what it will take to implement it well. Amplify is a strong, coherent choice. It builds conceptual understanding and creates meaningful opportunities for students to think and talk about math. It also supports better special education students and multilingual learners through visuals, structured discourse, and multiple entry points into the content. But we've also been here before. MCPS has adopted new materials with strong intentions, but has struggled with implementation that didn't match the decision's ambition. We cannot repeat that pattern. A one-day training for teachers across K-8 is simply not enough for a shift of this magnitude. Teachers need real time for unit level planning, working through the math, understanding the progression of ideas, and preparing for how students will engage with tasks. They need to deepen their opportunities to rehearse lessons, build confidence, to facilitate discussion-based classrooms with other teachers and content specialists. Leaders also need support. They need clarity on what strong implementation looks like, as well as the ability to observe classrooms, provide targeted feedback, and support teachers in using the materials with both fidelity and integrity. At the system level, we need to be more proactive. We cannot wait a year or more to understand what's working or what's not. There must be ongoing progress monitoring, not just of student outcomes, but of implementation across classrooms. Because even the strongest curriculum will not improve outcomes if it's not implemented well. We don't have a math curriculum problem in MCPS, we have an implementation problem, and it's our opportunity to get that right. Amplify is a strong choice. My ask is really simple. Move forward with adoption, but pair it with a clear, well-resourced, and accountable implementation plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Appel. Ms. Kelly?
Good afternoon. My name is Reagan Kelly, and I'm speaking on behalf of the MCC-PTA Curriculum Committee. I'm a parent of 2 MCPS students, and I also work professionally with districts across the country on curriculum implementation, instructional coherence, and instructional improvement. I want to start by clearly stating Amplify Desmos is the right decision. These math materials reflect what the research base tells us matters: a coherent progression of ideas, consistent engagement in reasoning and problem solving, and supports embedded directly into lessons to reach all students and give them access to grade level math. That matters because curriculum is not just a resource. It sets the floor of instruction across the system. And when that floor is strong and coherent and level, we reduce the variability too many students experience in MCPS from classroom to classroom and from school to school. But I want to be equally clear about something else. Selecting a strong curriculum is necessary, but it is not sufficient. With this vote tonight, we are not solving a curriculum problem. We are creating an opportunity to solve or preempt an implementation problem, and we have many lessons learned from recent curriculum rollouts. The current plan includes a day of training this summer for teachers and leaders. I appreciate that leaders are learning alongside teachers. That really matters. But one day of training is not a strategy for implementation for teachers. If we want different results in math, we need a different kind of support. Teachers need ongoing job-embedded support to use these materials with integrity. Who will provide that? When? Given that elementary leaders are limited to only 2 hours of supported planning per month. When will the teachers do that planning? School leaders need support and accountability so they learn to observe, coach, and build teacher practice aligned to the curriculum, not just manage schedules. When will that leader development happen, and how will it be sustained? And the system must align around the curriculum as a shared definition of grade-level instruction and monitor how it's used. Who will ensure that alignment and use implementation data to drive support? You're making a strong choice tonight. The question is whether our system is prepared to deliver on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Mr. McMillan?
Good afternoon. My name is Kieran McMillan. I'm a parent of 2 elementary MCPS students. I'm a former math teacher, and I've spent the last 10 years supporting teachers and school leaders across the country to adopt and implement Math HQIM. I'm here to speak in strong support of adopting the Amplified Desmos math curriculum. I want to start by acknowledging that MCPS is already starting from a strong curriculum position. Eureka Math and Illustrative Math are both coherent, standards-aligned curricula. They've set an instructional foundation for MCPS. What makes Amplify worth the transition is its design. Amplify is originally based on Illustrative Math, which should significantly support the transition for middle school students. Lessons are structured so that students are intentionally invited to bring their own thinking first. Lesson content is thought-provoking and challenging, asking students to grapple with novel problems in ways that affirm that every student has something mathematical worth saying. In the end, students are positioned as contributors to and creators of math conversations. Teachers have access to clear guidance on what student actions to look for, matched with usable suggestions for how to support, strengthen, and stretch student understanding. They are set up to establish true student-centered environments. All this said, the board should also know that curriculum adoption is a multi-year journey, and the vote to adopt Amplify is just the beginning. I encourage the board to start asking how MCPS will support teachers and school leaders through implementation. A curriculum as strong as Amplify can only deliver on its potential when the adults closest to students understand it deeply and have the time and coaching to use it well. I urge the board to move forward and to invest in that implementation from day one. Thank you.
Thank you very much all for your testimony. I will be calling the next 6 speakers. If I can have Angela Chairman, Greg Shaner, Karen Hamu, Rudy Kadish, and I'm also going to call the 2 additional walking slots that we had room for, Shibani Mishra and Ronnie, I think it's Peel. If we can start with Ms. Angela Chairman, please.
Good afternoon. I'm here to ask that you vote for building snow makeup days into spring break rather than starting the school year on August 20th. This decision was raised in mid-April, 4 months from August 20th. Starting the school year early may make sense in future years. It may have made sense to change a few months ago, but it does not make sense to change now. Many families have already made plans for that week. Families may have trips planned. Other working parents, such as myself, already have camps planned for that week. That week in particular has very few camps available compared to other weeks. If school starts early, parents may have to choose to forego 2 days of the plans they likely made months ago. I hope the board does not assume that most parents in the county have the flexibility to make those changes easily. By contrast, building in snow makeup days to spring break is not an unusual option. School districts nationwide do this and have for years. And by adding it to the calendar approximately 1 year in advance, this gives teachers, staff, and parents time to plan on those few days potentially being used as snow makeup days. Even if a day or 2 is added to winter break, that's still better advance notice than changing the August calendar around. This is unfortunately reminiscent of the recent boundary study decision where the disfavored but recommended option was raised with a very short turnaround. The concerns raised by Medi, Wooten, and Magruder parents there in the short time available remain unresolved. Today's decision, thankfully, has a much more limited impact. It does not affect stability in the county as it relates to accounting for projected growth, or safety as it relates to transportation studies or the lack thereof. I hope that today's decision takes into account the survey results and other community input provided in the limited time available and is backed by a transparent rationale. Please vote to build in makeup days to spring break and not for an earlier start to the school year. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. If we can go to Mr. Greg Shaner, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Shaner. I'm the father of a current Walter Johnson High School gymnast and a 5th grader who hopes to be a high school gymnast 3 years from now. I'm here today to plead with the board to reverse the decision to discontinue girls' gymnastics. I played varsity tennis at Winston Churchill High School in the mid-'80s, which was the best thing that happened to me at that age. If that was suddenly taken away from me out of the blue, I would have been crushed. I desperately want to avoid that happening to my 2 girls and to her teammates, other county athletes, and their coaches. I hate to say it, but we're here at this point because decisions were made early in the process in a unilateral way that lacked transparency. It should be obvious to MCPS athletics that gymnastics is an established sport with consistently increasing participation, solid infrastructure in place, and overwhelming support. To me, it looks like eliminating gymnastics was a predetermined outcome. The athletes, coaches, and parents, those most affected by this, were blindsided by the decision. Instead of jumping to the most extreme option, I think it makes sense to put our heads together to figure out what other options exist in a fair, open, and inclusive process. Furthermore, the decision to replace the decades-long MCPS gymnastics program with stunt cheerleading is baffling and adding further insult. At a minimum, both should be able to coexist. If that's not possible, then gymnastics should be reinstated. At that point, there can be a robust, stakeholder-focused process put in place to openly debate the merits of stunt cheerleading continuing past its pilot season. I appreciate the board listening to me and the many others who have reached out to you. I hope the board takes immediate action to reinstate girls' gymnastics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaner. Now we'll hear testimony from Ms. Karen Hamu, and her testimony will be read by Ms. Rudy Kadish. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Education, and thank you for your time. My name is Ruti Kadish, and I'm here presenting in English the testimony of Karin Hamou, who speaks on behalf of the Moed Community Aftercare Program. We're here to request that you reinstate a reliable transportation partnership with MCPS and the community. We are here as MCPS partners who share the same goal, giving our children the strongest possible educational foundation. Moed is much more than aftercare. It is education that strengthens identity, builds confidence, and cultivates youth leadership. Our families commit to this program for years. For over a decade, our partnership with MCPS Transportation made this possible, bringing students from over 20 Montgomery County public schools to our sites and allowing us to serve over 100 families annually. When Moed was founded, MCPS Transportation operated with a strong community partnership mindset, working creatively to make transportation accessible through rerouted buses and shared routes. For example, existing buses were rerouted to add a stop at a school with Moed kids, or a bus already stopping at a school with Moed students would transport them to Moed. In recent years, that approach has changed. Last July, we were told MCPS is no longer required to provide buses to programs like ours. The statement took us by surprise. This transportation arrangement was never a requirement, but rather a revenue-generating service for which we paid and which served the broader community. Since then, our requests have been routinely denied, even when buses already stop at our locations and have available space. The impact on our families has been significant. This is about equity. Without MCPS transportation, only families with substantial resources can participate. As it stands, we are now facing the decision to close one of our sites for the 2026-27 school year. We're asking MCPS to reinstate.
Sorry, your time is up, but we have your testimony. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to now go to Ms. Kayala Buder. We have, oh, that's video. You're right, baby girl. Thank you so much. How about we go to you? And now, give me your name. Yeah, go ahead.
Greetings, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Shabani Mishra, and I'm a freshman at Richard Montgomery, who, alongside so many other brave students today, strongly opposes your magnet decision. I want to start with a series of questions. Do you truly think this decision will serve the best interests of students? If that answer is yes, then why do most of them not know about it? Why is there no public disclosure of how you'll bridge so many gaps in 2 years? What will 2027 be like for juniors in RMIB versus the freshman guinea pigs entering? How will the admissions process work? Richard Montgomery will be in Region 4 cluster with Churchill, Wooten, and Rockville High School. Doesn't this mean Julius West students will have an unfair advantage? And how is this equity? Will teachers have to rapidly move across the county? What will the metrics of success be at each program? And can you guarantee the same level of rigor and reward to students at regional magnets compared to one that's taken 4 decades to become this successful nationwide? And are you going to say it's fair to split siblings and that my sister in 7th grade won't have the opportunity to make countywide friends like I did? And finally, isn't the fact that there are so many unanswered questions alarming? Where you could have kept RMIB as an option until gradually building up regional programs to the same level, and where you could have spent time funding enrichment programs, you disrupted what worked and reversed the very opportunity, equity, and diversity this county touts. I understand your intentions, but you must heavily improve their execution. It is a privilege to have this speaking opportunity today, which is why you must not let us go ignored the minute we exit these doors. Please do better, MCPS. Our county's future depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rodney Peel?
Thanks, and I agree with the Richard Montgomery students here. But today, again, I'm Rodney Peel. I'm here to testify about a letter I submitted with other Richard Montgomery parents about compacted math this afternoon, as well as the information I've received from the MCPS-MD Gifted Education Committee. Math curriculum and delivery of compacted math are topics that have long interested me since I've been involved with PTA advocacy. We strongly support MCPS's adoption of the Amplified Desmos Math, which is based on illustrative mathematics. We think this is a high-quality curriculum that builds on deep understanding and reasoning. If it's implemented well, with strong professional development and ongoing support, it has the potential to improve math outcomes. But for students who are ready to learn at a faster pace and move beyond grade level standards, a strong curriculum by itself is not enough. It's essential that MCPS maintain compacted math beginning in 4th grade next year. In the following year, acceleration options should begin in 3rd grade in line with new math acceleration guidance from MSDE. As a reminder, Maryland law requires a continuum of gifted education services from pre-K through 12th grade. And MCPS board policy states that all students who are capable of doing so will be given the opportunity to work above grade level. The new state guidance requires access to enrichment and acceleration as appropriate, and this includes annual evaluation for acceleration readiness and automatic acceleration for students at the highest proficiency level. Despite MCPS claims, families continue to consistently report that there's very little meaningful enrichment in grade level math. MCPS will need to develop enrichment materials beyond what's offered in Amplify and provide coaching support and oversight for teachers. Going forward, the school system must provide a strong on-grade level curriculum, enrichment for students who are ready to work more deeply with grade level content, and access to acceleration for students who are ready to move beyond grade level standards beginning in the 3rd grade. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If we can please have staff now go to video testimony, that would include Ms. Kaya Lebouder and Andrea Carruthers.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Kaya Lebouder, and I'm a freshman at Richard Montgomery High School. I'm speaking today because one of the many schools that are losing access to the RMIB program is Walter Johnson High School, my home school. It's crazy to think that if I'd been born just 2 years later, I would have fully lost access to one of the most established programs in the county. RM hosted the first IB diploma program in MCPS as of 1987. It's had decades to develop its curriculum, train experienced teachers, and establish stronger resources, things that the newer programs haven't yet had the time to create. This difference is reflected in the IB exam outcomes across the county. At RM, 99% of students pass the IB exam with a score of 4 or higher, whereas in one of the regionalized programs, 24% of students pass at this rate. Regionalizing access to inexperienced magnets means students are no longer choosing between equal opportunities and are instead being assigned to programs that will not offer the same level of outcomes. Creating 6 brand new programs in such a short time span was projecting the inequality already being displayed on a larger scale. Beyond academics, RMIB is also about the community it builds. The program brings together students from across the county, offering a range of perspectives that extends beyond our local communities. By shifting to more regionalized programs, the students that would have given you perspectives are limited by the location of their home. As a result, all the programs will become smaller, less diverse, and limited, destroying the learning environment that RM students thrive off of. Expanding programs should mean expanding equal opportunities. However, right now, this plan looks like it's about to do the opposite. The fact that so many students don't even know about these changes shows the lack of transparency and thorough consideration when making it. If these programs are truly meant to benefit us, the students, stop making decisions for us and start making them with us. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Andrea Carruthers Wilkerson, and I'm a parent at Rock Creek Forest Elementary, where I also serve as the NAAC Parent Council's representative, and I'm also a parent at Chevy Chase Elementary. I am also a 23-year veteran educator, having taught 3rd through 5th grade and 7th grade math, and have served both as a principal and district leader. I am here in strong support of adopting the Amplified Desmos Math. I support this curriculum as both a parent and an educator because it builds deep mathematical understanding. Students are not just learning procedures, they are learning reason, explaining their thinking, and engaging in meaningful mathematical discourse. Amplify offers engaging problem-based lessons that use visual models, real-world context, digital tools, and hand-on manipulatives to strengthen conceptual understanding. Importantly, this curriculum is especially strong for Black students and multilingual learners. It provides multiple entry points into rigorous content, structured opportunities for discussion, and visual supports that make high-level math more accessible. It also has a just-in-time scaffolding approach, which will offer critical opportunities rather than remediation, which will advance equity and grade level achievement. But curriculum alone does not drive success. Implementation does. Teachers need strong professional development, collaborative planning time, and ongoing support to bring this curriculum to life for diverse learners and to ensure it's responsive to the needs of Black and MLL learners. If MCPS adopts Amplify and commits to the implementation support, we have a real opportunity to improve outcomes, increase student confidence, and make math more accessible.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment. The board's next meeting to receive public comment is on Thursday, May 7th. Online signups will open the evening of April 30th at 6 p.m. In addition to online signups, same-day in-person signups are permitted when space allows, with unallocated slots filled on a first-come, first-served basis. In-person signups will close 15 minutes before the start of the open session or when all slots are filled. Additional information regarding upcoming meetings can be found on the board's website. With that, I will open the floor to see if any of my colleagues have any comments. Ms. Anuba.
All right, thank you. First, I want to thank everyone for coming out and speaking, especially the students. We love it whenever we do have students come out and share their perspective. I just want to add on to that and invite all the students that came out today to come to one of my small advisory council meetings. We discussed many things, including have a set department on boundary and program analysis, which I'm sure you guys can share a lot about and contribute to, as you guys all have wonderful perspectives to bring to that. I know that we must monitor our execution every step of the way with this process and adapt when needed and hold ourselves accountable to the community's feedback. So thank you, and please keep it coming.
Ms. Montoya.
Thank you. I just wanted to say good afternoon. I apologize for not being here earlier. Like many of you, I have my own MCPS students, and I had to pick one up from school and get them home and get back here in time. So thank you for being here. Mr. Peel, I'm right there with you with math. We want to make sure that kids who need challenge in math, even in early elementary grades, are able to access that. So I know that we have some coursework now, and we're hoping for some more enrichment, and my hope is that through whatever curriculum and instructional materials are adopted, that we'll be able to provide that for our elementary school students. I also wanted to make a request of board staff to please email the students who testified today about the regional program model. If we could please send them links to the board docs meeting slots or agenda items where we had they were very lengthy, actually, a few hundred pages, I believe.
And robust.
I didn't even print them out. They were so lengthy.
Yes.
Where it had the kind of breakdown of the programming, staffing, courses, and all of that so that they can make sure they have access to that information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stewart?
I too want to thank all the students for coming out, especially. I know that it takes a lot of time to come out here, and you're very busy. I'd like to ask a question that was asked by the Climate Action Council. It was nice to see them testify today. I know they've been doing a lot of work. We do have some money for them in our budget, but the question was, can we partially carry over between fiscal years? I know that is a little tricky with their planning. I didn't know if maybe we could, just answer that question.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, okay. So I just wanted to make that clear. So when you all are doing your planning, just know that we cannot carry over. So try to bake that into your own plans, because I want to see you all as successful as possible. And I look forward to attending the summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Ms. Sylvester?
Also for our students that testify, we are having quarterly updates on our program work. So if we could get a date to them as well, so that they could be a part of those presentations when the board gets an update on the implementation plan for the programs. Thank you for your advocacy. And I'll hold my questions on the calendar and the curriculum because those are in our agenda coming up, so we'll be discussing that in detail. Thank you.
Ms. Yang.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming in. I also look forward to the climate summit. And I have a question. I believe we talk about having gymnastics as a presentation.
It's coming to you at your June work session.
So during the June work session. Okay. And then I will also hold my questions for the calendar and the curriculum. Thank you, everyone.
I would like to say to our young students that I'm just so glad that you're getting such a great education to advocate the way you are. But know that these decisions we did not take lightly. We did our homework. This is not really a part-time job for many of us. This is really a full-time job to be able to make the changes that we're making. But with that, I would also like to ask about the gymnastics. If it's coming in June, would that have any, I thought we were going to have it sooner than that, that's all.
We tried to schedule for May 7th,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
what I
looks like
thought.
June is the next available date where we could get that into your calendar.
Okay, all right, well, maybe I can talk to my colleagues and see if we can rearrange our calendar to be able to fit that into the May 7th, which would be next Thursday. Why, is May next week?
Yeah, I would just join in that request, and I saw some other head nods. I think we've been asking for quite some time about this, and the more time that goes on, it just gets a little concerning for me.
All right, with that, thank you so much all for your testimony. We appreciate it. Moving on to item number 8. Are there any consent items that my colleagues would like to request to be pulled for clarification? Ms. Sylvester.
Item 8.8, and I just need to abstain from that one.
Yeah, there's 8.8 to be pulled because Ms. Sylvester has to abstain from it. Okay, is that all? Is there a motion then and a second to approve items, taking out 8.8, I guess, right? So it will be 8.1 through 8.29 minus 8.8. Do the math. Is there a motion and a second to approve those items?
Move approval.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. So just point of clarification, how do we vote on the item that we did not vote on?
Call for a motion in a second.
You call
Can we
for a motion on
do I do that now?
8.8.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Go ahead, Mrs. Zimmerman.
I move to approve item 8.8.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second for item 8.8. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous, except for Ms. Sylvester. Oh, no, that's not unanimous. That is, I'm just going to call it Ms. Anuva, Ms. Zimmerman, Ms. Montoya, Ms. Wolf, myself, Ms. Yang, and Ms. Stewart. Okay, thank you very much. Just to be
Ms.
clear.
Rivera-Oven, can we just get Ms. Sylvester's vote for the record?
For the record, I abstain.
Thank you.
And there's an abstention by Ms. Sylvester. Okay, great.
Madam
Moving on.
President, we have just a few announcements as tied to the board's recently adopted consent agenda. There were several items that were recognitions. This is a very popular month for recognitions coming up. Yes. May is a month of celebration in the school system. First, the board designated May as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, where we'll be celebrating the rich culture and contributions of lasting impact of Asian American and Pacific Islanders in our community. Second, the board designated May as Jewish American Heritage Month, recognizing the history, contributions, and resilience of Jewish Americans and encouraging learning and reflection across our school communities. Third, the board proclaimed School Principal Day on Friday, tomorrow, honoring the leadership and dedication of our principals. Fourth, the board recognized Teacher Appreciation Week. It's like our Super Bowl week, next week. which celebrates the commitment and impact of our fabulous educators who support students every single day. Fifth, the board approved Pupil Personnel Worker Week, highlighting the important role these professionals play in supporting attendance, student wellness, and connections between schools and families. Sixth, the board honored the MCPS Counselors of the Year, of which we have several, recognizing outstanding school counselors whose leadership, dedication, support, and student achievement and well-being at post-secondary readiness is their top priority. Finally, the board recognized our higher education partnerships, celebrating more than 1,000 employees engaged in the pursuit of advanced degrees and certifications. We are a learning organization, and we love it when our leaders and our teammates are learning and advancing their careers through advanced degrees as well. These resolutions, which the Board of Education has approved, will be celebrated by the Board of Education on May 21st at their next business meeting. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. Moving on, so now we are moving into item number 9.1. This is recommendation to revoke the MECCA Business Learning Institute charter.
Madam President, we do have a resolution for the board's consideration. And for your consideration, I am happy to read the last resolve for your consideration. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the superintendent's recommendation to revoke the Mecca Business Learning Institute's charter.
Sorry, Dr. Taylor, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think first we're going to hear from Monica and Patty, and then you can do the resolution.
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Go for it.
There we go.
All right. Good evening, President Rivera-Oven, Dr. Taylor, and members of the board. I am Patty Ersprung here with Dr. Monica Hedrick, and we are basically here in the event you have any questions regarding the timeline or the applicable process as you discuss and consider this agenda item. With regard to the timeline, I would like to highlight a few key dates as it concerns the superintendent's recommendation to revoke the Mecca Business Learning Institute, or MBLI, charter. On November 14th, 2025, the superintendent issued a notice of noncompliance, and this was stemming from MCPS's determination that MBLI failed to comply with the requirements of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and/or Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. And included in that communication was Dr. Taylor's intent to recommend revocation if the deficiencies were not corrected. At the board's business meeting on December 11th, 2025, the superintendent made his official request and recommendation to the board to revoke MBLI's charter. On February 19th, 2026, the board issued a notice of its intent to revoke the charter with the opportunity for MBLI to propose an alternative to revocation. On March 10th, MBLI submitted that alternative proposal, and in a memorandum to the board dated March 24th, 2026, the superintendent requested that the board reject the alternative proposal and continue with the revocation. At the board's April 16th, 2026 work session, which was our last meeting, the board provided another opportunity for MBLI and MCPS to present a status update on MBLI's efforts to cure the areas of deficiency noted by MCPS. And that brings us to today, April 30th. At this time, the board is scheduled to take action on the superintendent's recommendation. With that, I will turn it back over to President Rivera-Oven, and again, Monica and I will be available to address any procedural questions you may have.
Thank you so much to both of you. Thank you. I will ask now Dr. Taylor to share any final remarks regarding the recommendation, and then please read the results and the resolution on the table for the board's consideration.
Thank you, Madam President. I think I'm all remarked out. I'm just going to read the resolution for the board's consideration. And the last resolved is that resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the superintendent's recommendation to revoke the Mecca Business Learning Institute's charter effective June 30th, 2026, pursuant to the Mecca Business Learning Institute Charter School Charter Agreement Article 26.B.
Is there a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. I'm so sorry. That's right. There is a motion and a second. We will now proceed to discussion. Sorry, I'm trying to move this along here. As board members may have questions and might need responses from MCPS, I will ask that the appropriate representatives come forward. And if there's no representatives? Is there anyone here from MPL? Okay. Anybody has any questions? Okay.
I have discussion.
Oh, Ms. Wolf.
Yes. As I have continued to say, I do not believe that the superintendent has submitted sufficient evidence to support the revocation of MBLI's charter. I understand there are a number of concerns, from adequate and appropriate staffing to financial sustainability. However, under the charter, there is to be an entire evaluation framework the MCPS is to complete by May 30th of each fiscal year. We haven't even made it to May 1st, and the only issue really brought forward to justify revocation is special education compliance. Even with that, MCPS has found the majority of the violations to have been cured. Of the 6 possible grounds for revocation, the school system has hung its hat on one: failure to abide by all legal requirements, including those governing the provisions of services to any student with a disability after notice and a reasonable opportunity to cure. Yet the majority of these IEP violations appear to have been resolved. I still believe that placing MBLI under a remediation plan with close monitoring and realistic metrics would provide a fair process. If, with MBLI's understanding, the board's intent to revoke, and given the data collected through the remediation process, MBLI cannot meet standard, the board would have a strong foundation for revocation. I struggle with this as a matter of due process. I really do. I believe there are concerns. I also believe that under the charter agreement, there is a framework to systematically evaluate these concerns. So that's kind of where I am on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wolf.
I'm sorry, may I? Thank you.
Ms. Montoya.
So my understanding is that for the current 10 students at issue, which is the 10 students that are left under this charge of lack of compliance with their IEPs or the provision of services, is that actually those are not in compliance, even now. And so I'm not sure that it's challenging, right? Because MBLI is saying, well, we did comply. My understanding from MCPS is that they are not fully in compliance. And so it's challenging for me to say that, well, they've then cured the issue at this point.
So we have Dr. Cage and Ms. Seabrook who are going to come up.
Thank you so much.
Respond to that.
Good afternoon. I'm Robin Seabrook, Chief Legal Officer for MCPS. It is Ms. Montoya. I will yield to Dr. Cage, but it is my understanding that 100% compliance has not been met on the IEPs. And so the chart that was provided to you from the Department of Special Education that was put together by the Director of Special Education outlined areas of noncompliance that still exist. And some of those IEPs and some of the student-specific information is still has not been brought into compliance. I'll let Dr. Cage go into specifics.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Vice President, and members of the board. I have in front of me the spreadsheet that was shared with you. It is accurate to say that one of the IEPs is being worked on right now. It is not fully compliant, but all of the other 9 IEPs, as it states in the document you received, are still non-compliant and have been non-compliant since November of 2025.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
No, thank you.
I just want to remark that I think that I said that they were not fully in compliance. I don't think that I said that they were in compliance and that this is a concern that we're still raising. What I said is I believe it's an issue of due process and that we have schools that are in non-compliance and they have been in non-compliance for several years. And we know that this continues to be a problem with staffing and a lot of other issues. And I think that it is only fair to give them at least a full year to come into compliance, which would have been the May evaluation. Thank you.
Ms. Sylvester?
Dr. Cage, in a typical school, how long does it take for an IEP if the principal or an administrator notices that it's not in compliance? What's a reasonable time frame for it to be back in compliance?
So every situation is different, so we can't call it typical at this time. However, when we are made aware and the level of technical assistance and support that we provided MBLI, upon understanding their struggles and understanding the noncompliance with not just the IEPs, but service delivery, having the right staff to deliver the services and everything else, we were going in weekly to work with them, and there was no movement. So I could say in some of our MCPS schools, Ms. Wolf is exactly correct. We have some issues. However, when we apply the level of technical assistance with 10 IEPs, in 48 hours, we can update these IEPs and bring them into compliance and be working in other areas to ensure that the service delivery is actually happening.
Thank you.
Ms. Stewart?
I'm wondering how much time did you give the school technical assistance? Do you have that record?
As far as the hours, we do have billable hours that we can share with the board since you've requested it. But I can tell you, I've been at every level. I've been in the school, I've been in the district, I've been at the state, and I'm back at the district. Whenever we find a noncompliance issue and we provide technical assistance, it is still up to the school to make the corrections. So when we went in and we specifically identified as early as September of last year, specific areas by student, there was a report that was given to them with specific things, as if I may quote, ensure that the parent notification says blah, blah, blah. And there was no action taken by MBLI to update any of the IEPs every single time we went in.
Thank you.
I do believe also that in the documentation you received, and this has been a long process, so it probably was a few months ago, Dr. Cage did put together a timeline, and I think the technical assistance actually started before school began, right? So in terms of months and time, and then the actual corrective action from Dr. Cage didn't come until late fall, end of year, but the technical assistance began before school started.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, anytime we did give them a finding, we were met with some type of rebuttal that everything was fixed. And upon our next visit, that was not so.
Okay. Ms. Wolf?
I just have one question, though. Are they making some progress? Because it looks as though they're making some progress. They're not in compliance, but neither are we on a lot of things. But are they making progress?
Yes, Ms. Wolf, thank you.
Okay, well, everybody said their piece, so I'm going to quickly say mine. I don't want to, repeat everything my colleagues said, but I do concur with Ms. Wolf. I think the fact, the timing of when they moved, when they got, everything together and so on, I don't want to say, we need to give them grace period, but do not, I know my name is Grace too, but so, and no pun intended, but it's, I do agree with my colleague. I think if they are making progress and so on, I just have a really hard time right now and supporting the recommendation that we currently had. With that being said, we're going to move on. So I will ask. There is a motion and there is a second, and all those in favor for the recommendation of the superintendent to revoke MECCA, please raise your hand. That would be Ms. Anuva, Ms. Zimmerman, Ms. Montoya, Ms. Yang, Ms. Sylvester, and Ms. Stewart. The motion carries. No. All opposed. That would be yes, Ms. Wolf. So that would be Ms. Wolf and Ms. Rivera-Oben. All right. So with that, the next item on the agenda would be that Mecca Business Learning Institute Charter and Dissolution Plan. The board having adopted the superintendent's recommendation to revoke MBLI's charter effective June 30th, 2026. The board will now consider the superintendent's proposal plan for dissolution, and then I will turn it back to Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam President. As one of the covenants in the charter agreement is that it needs to be a disillusionment plan that's followed and presented to the board for consideration in conjunction with any decision to revoke the charter. We do have that board attached for your consideration in draft form for your adoption or direction with revision. I'll read the two resolves for your consideration. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the superintendent's proposed plan for disillusionment of the Mecca Business Learning Institute Charter School, and be it further resolved that the superintendent shall provide regular status updates to the Board of Education regarding the disillusionment process through June 30 of 2026 or until the process has been fully concluded.
Thank you. Is there a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Is there any discussion? I'm just going to say I feel this is a little bit premature. Without no more discussion, then all those in favor, please raise your hand. That will be Ms. Anuva, Ms. Zimmerman, Ms. Montoya, Ms. Yang, Ms. Sylvester, and Ms. Stewart. And the motion carries. All those opposed, so I always forget about us, Ms. That will be me and Ms. Wolf. Okay. Moving on, we're going to move now to item 11.1. And this would be the math curriculum. So the next two items actually is going to be 11.1 and 12.1. Math curriculum approval and 12.1 is a curriculum development approval. I understand these are covered by one presentation, but there will be separate resolutions to approve. So 2 votes will be required by my colleagues. And with that, I will turn it over again to Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I got to tell you, it's really exciting to have testimony on curriculum and excited testimony on curriculum. And it brings us back to our core mission of teaching and learning. And our team is really excited to talk to you about this. For years and years and years and years and years, MCPS has been world-renowned for writing its own curriculum. And in that process, we've identified some gaps. And Having a purchased curriculum helps to close some of those gaps as long as that purchased curriculum is of high quality. In alignment with Regulation IFA-RA curriculum, we are proud to bring forward a math curriculum recommendation and a plan for curriculum development to select courses for the board approval. At its core, this work is a simple but important idea that a strong curriculum drives strong student outcomes, and that is part of the equation. Today, we are presenting recommendations in two key areas for your consideration. First, we're recommending externally developed comprehensive mathematics curriculum designed to provide a coherent and rigorous learning experience for pre-K through integrated Algebra 2 courses in MCPS. We are at an important moment in mathematics for MCPS, an inflection point really in the state. With updated Maryland standards and expiring curriculum contracts, we have a timely opportunity to strengthen and better align instruction, ensuring that it is clear, consistent, and rigorous for both teachers and students. Second, we are going to be bringing forward a plan to develop new curriculum for selected courses in fine arts, world languages, health and physical education, and the humanities. This work is focused on ensuring alignment with standards, relevance, and strong student experiences across content areas. We're excited about that prospect as well. Whether the curriculum is developed externally or created within MCPS, our commitment is the same: rigorous, standards aligned, instruction, strong support for all learners, high quality, user-friendly materials for teachers, and clear communication and support for families. It's my pleasure to now turn things over to our Chief Academic Officer, Mrs. Nikki Porter, who will introduce the rest of the team and lead us through today's presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. Good evening, President Rivera-Oven, and members of the board. I have with me Dr. Brandt and Dr. Hewlett, directors in curriculum, and they will be helping to do the presentation today. And then Ms. Sheila Berlinger, who is our elementary math supervisor, who will be here to support with questions. As stated, we are here today to come with two distinct requests for approval around curriculum. The board is tasked with oversight of curriculum at every stage, from development all the way to final selection. I do want to share there's a difference in the approval process with curriculum that we are seeking to purchase compared to curriculum that we develop internally, and I'm going to share a little bit about that. But first, we are seeking your approval with the adoption of external material for mathematics in pre-K all the way to integrated Algebra 2. The curriculum was selected with strict alignment with the procurement laws and formal request for proposal process that includes extensive engagement with both staff and community. And the curriculum does require approval from the board, and we are coming with a bundle of both curriculum and the instructional materials that schools will use to support their students. So that is one approval. And then we are also coming to you to request approval to begin implementation or begin the development of curriculum. And we do that anytime standards change or we want to provide upgrades to our curriculum. We come to you on the front end to ask for your approval to begin the process, and then we will come back to you when it's completed to ask your approval to implement. And so we're coming to you around fine arts, world languages, health, physical education, and humanities. And we would like to acknowledge, I know that you've gotten some comments from some community members about our process. We have 6 different policies or regulations around curriculum, and it's as early as 1986. And so we know that some of the language in those documents are conflicting, and we recognize that, and we are committed to updating those policies and regulations with you all and bring them to alignment so that they are more current with our procurement laws and our external curriculum processes. So if you will go to the next slide, please. Go one more. We just want to, again, before we get started, share with you that this is an alignment with strategic goal number 1. Strong aligned curriculum is foundational to ensuring all of our students demonstrate high levels of academic achievement. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie Brandt, who will talk you through the first, which is the curriculum that we would like to purchase, the external curriculum.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Porter. You can go to the next slide, please. And then Ashley, the next slide. At this point, I'm going to shift our focus to mathematics, where we present a comprehensive recommendation for curriculum selection. As you'll hear, this recommendation is grounded in a thorough review process that engaged educators, leaders, caregivers, and community members. Our goal is to strengthen student learning in mathematics across the entire pre-K through integrated Algebra 2 experience, ensuring rigorous and engaging instruction for all students, and ultimately improving student achievement and long-term mathematics outcomes. Next slide, please. To arrive at this recommendation, we conducted a comprehensive and inclusive selection process with a portion of representation identified by MCEA. Stakeholder groups invited to review the products included school administrators, teacher leaders, teachers and support staff, central office administrators and instructional specialists, parents, students, and representatives from organizations such as the MCCPTA, NAACP, the Black and Brown Coalition, PODARE, Pride Alliance, and Identity. As seen on this slide, we engaged 164 participants. The process included 4 rounds. An initial review round by our pre-K to 12 math team of all proposals to confirm they were complete. Next, a central office review of the proposals that moved forward. The second round included ensuring that proposals addressed every aspect of the MCPS request that was made. This required evaluation by the Departments of Curriculum Development, Special Education, and Multilingual Education, as well as by our technology, legal, and data management teams. The third round then expanded the reviewers to include representation from schools, the community, and caregivers. In this round, all participants reviewed instructional materials, both print and digital. These materials were available for review during the week and on weekends to accommodate all community members. For the fourth round, vendors were invited to give presentations that continue to include all stakeholders from schools, as well as community members and caregivers. Finally, extensive interviews were conducted to delve further into MCPS-specific needs and how potential partners could meet those needs. Overall, 2 of the 4 review rounds provided opportunities for all stakeholders to participate. Throughout the process, we ensured diverse representation and meaningful opportunities for feedback. This was a thorough and transparent effort to identify the strongest mathematics instructional curriculum for our teachers and our students. Next slide, please. Based on the selection process, we are recommending Amplify Desmos Mathematics. What makes Amplify Desmos stand out above the others? This program provides rigorous, Maryland Standards aligned instruction and is designed to support all learners, educators, and caregivers. What makes this curriculum transformative is its design, which you heard a little bit about tonight. It positions students as active creators and contributors to mathematical conversations. Lessons are sequenced to invite students' own thinking first, build on their understanding, and use thought-provoking real-world problems that affirm every student and their voice in the math work. Furthermore, as an illustrative math, which is our current secondary curriculum-based curriculum, it leverages the deep instructional experience many of our teachers already have. It also inherently supports students receiving special education services and emergent multilingual learners through rich visuals, structured discourse, and multiple entry points into the content, making rigorous math more accessible for all. To meet the diverse needs of students within MCPS, every single lesson includes opportunities to support, strengthen, and stretch students' instruction. The model of support, strengthen, and stretch builds foundational learning to address gaps, provides reinforcement for the grade level, and offers enrichment, all prepared to use. This curriculum strikes a strong balance between conceptual understanding and procedural fluency, which is critical for long-term success in math. What teachers need is right there, which is a significant improvement for our teachers. Amplified Desmos Math includes embedded supports for differentiation, language development, enrichment, and acceleration, as well as aligned assessments to monitor student progress. The MSDE math policy will expect expanded accelerated opportunities to best meet the needs of students without skipping content. Amplified Desmos Math will provide support and resources to allow for this. We'll bring more information forward at next week's board meeting about just that. Lastly, this curriculum offers a thoughtful balance of digital and print resources appropriate to the student's developmental age. The digital platform is unique to Amplify Desmos. During instruction, math concepts are contextualized through interactive visuals of graphs, sliders, and models. When students are using the platform on their digital device, the teacher can actually monitor their responses and elevate their thinking by sharing their screens. The guidance on using the materials and platform is clear and very well organized for teachers. Next slide, please. The implementation timeline is driven by the state's expectation for the rollout of the new mathematics courses. In the 2026-2027 school year, we will launch the new pre-K through Algebra 1 curriculum. Beginning in 2027-2028 school year, we will transition to Integrated Algebra 2 in alignment with the state requirement that takes effect that year. In 2028-2029, we would then introduce Integrated Algebra 2. The sequence ensures we are fully aligned with Maryland's timeline while also allowing us to prepare educators and support students through each transition point. Next slide, please. Professional learning is a key component of successful curriculum implementation. Amplify Desmos Math will partner with MCPS to provide comprehensive support for both teachers and instructional leaders. This will include early previews for leaders, mandatory one-day grade-banded summer training sessions for all teachers, including English language development teachers and special educators. So they really have time to let things marinate and receive support during pre-service before students arrive in their classrooms. And they'll have access to ongoing coaching throughout the school year. In addition, all educators will have access to on-demand professional learning library with videos and resources. This is designed as a multi-year effort to ensure sustained support and continuous improvement. We've heard the community's feedback clearly this evening. Adopting a strong curriculum is necessary, but not sufficient. This is also an opportunity to solve an implementation problem by resetting expectations for a consistent, rigorous, system-wide grade level math that's aligned to our commitment to strong Tier 1 instruction. To deliver on this commitment, we must go beyond the summer training. We will provide ongoing job-embedded support through our cross-functional team instructional specialists and Amplify Desmos to ensure teachers have what they need to work through the math progressions and the lessons, building confidence and facilitating discussion-based classrooms. We will also provide intentional leadership development for principals and instructional leaders. This training will focus on how to observe, coach, and build teacher practice aligned to the curriculum's design, moving beyond just managing schedules and the operational needs of instruction. Finally, this curriculum will serve as a shared definition of rigorous grade level instruction for all students. This is critical for reducing the variability that too many of our students currently experience from classroom to classroom or even school to school. We are committed to including ongoing progress monitoring of implementation across classrooms, not just student outcomes. This data will be collected, analyzed, and used immediately and continuously to inform where additional support is needed to ensure the materials are used with integrity. Next slide, please. We recognize the importance of supporting families throughout this transition. To that end, Amplify Desmos provides a caregiver hub that includes daily lesson videos, summaries, and practice problems with answers in both English and Spanish. In the next few months, we will host community meetings in partnership with schools and Amplify Desmos to provide caregivers with more information. Ultimately, these resources are intended to make learning more transparent and to help families feel more connected to what students are experiencing in their classrooms each day. Next slide, please. As I mentioned on the previous slide, we're really focused on making sure families feel connected to and supported in their child's mathematics learning. The Caregiver Hub gives families a clear window into what's happening in classrooms each day. As pictured, this includes short lesson videos, easy to follow summaries, and a daily practice problem with the answer key so families can engage in both English and Spanish. The goal here is not to add more to families' plate, but to make learning more transparent and accessible so they can better understand the math their children are experiencing and feel more confident to support them at home. I will now pause for questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Ms. Yang?
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you so much. I was fast, so I won this time. Okay, I am very happy to see slide number 10, that it has daily video, daily summary, daily practice problems with answer. Does that go all the way? Oh my goodness. Okay, so you can really. Okay, that's wonderful. Now, I have two questions. I'm just going to say all of them once. You talk about the digital platform to use in the classroom. This curriculum we are adopting for young learners from kindergarten and on in elementary school, and I am concerned of how much we are dependent on computers for very long learners. So I would like you to talk about the technology used for our young learners and how is it different from the maybe upper elementary grade. And then you talk about rolling this out and have professional development, which is wonderful. Can you also explain how do you evaluate whether this is working, whether your professional development is working, or whether this curriculum is working? What metrics and what are the timelines that you look at evaluation? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. I'm going to turn it over to Sheila to answer the first digital platform question, and then I'll get back to you about professional learning.
Good afternoon, and thank you for that question about technology because it's really important. What's wonderful about Amplify Desmos is that it prepares instructional materials and provides recommendations for teacher teaching that's appropriate to the children that are sitting in front of them. In your K-2 classroom, you should see little to no screens. The students won't be on devices. The teachers are using the digital resources in their preparation. They may be using items that they're projecting on screens, but students are progressing through their learning, starting with manipulatives into the pictures and then into the abstract. They're actually doing the math at the table, talking with their teammates, using document cameras. They're not on devices. As they get older, there are more digital tools that become more available to them. And even once they get to the secondary level in middle school, at most, they would use a screen 50% of the time. And that's because the Desmos technology tools that are integrated into the learning really provide true-to-life experiences related to applying the mathematics in real-life situations. But those littles, they're not using their screens at all. There's a little bit of opportunity in the middle, and then there's a little bit more opportunity when you get to middle school.
So K-2 sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
The secondary, if digital tool takes 50% of the time, that can take away discussion and instruction time. So I have to.
At most.
At most.
At most, they'd be using it 50% of the time, but they wouldn't necessarily be using it alone. So what is the scenario or the context or the challenge that has been provided for the group of students to engage in so that they're having those mathematical discussions?
As we rolled it out, we are rolling out to all grades the same time, right? Okay. And then what guideline would you provide to the teachers in terms of these digital usage?
I think you'd want to encourage the teachers to make the same informed decisions about the use of a digital tool in the same way that they'd be using any other instructional tool. When you're having a collaborative discussion about the best way to enter the mathematical discussion, is it better to use something tangible and tactile? Or do you have to use something digital to bring it to life?
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but if this is something that, all of us are very aware of how much we are on screen, that it can be a particular area that we pay attention to have meaningful conversation with the educators.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Sylvester? Oh, I'm sorry, are we still?
I was just going to go ahead and answer the second question, if that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
No problem.
What was the second question?
So you had asked about, the initial professional learning, which will then support the curriculum implementation. So just to, the professional learning that happens over the summer will build the capacity of our teachers. We'll be simultaneously working with leaders to build their capacity around the understanding of the curriculum, but also really align it to the Tier 1 instructional focus that we, will have this summer with leaders. When we think about the implementation and really monitoring implementation, it will then be the cross-functional instructional specialists really, connecting, they know the pedagogy of MCPS, connecting with Amplify Desmos Math, who know the content, to develop really going into classrooms, doing observations around what implementation looks like. We've learned a lot this year in the implementation of our secondary CKLA literacy curriculum, where we have teams going in and observing instruction and then, identifying trends and patterns. We are using that information to inform professional learning, providing that to leaders and to teachers, making sure they get exactly what they need, and then going back in and looking for those same elements in the instruction. And we're able to then compare what we saw the first round and then that second round. So we'll be doing something very similar, again, with our cross-functional instructional specialists, as well as, of course, the pre-K-12 math team. But we're going to also rely on Amplify Desmos, who understand the content. So we understand the pedagogy of MCPS, and they understand the content and pedagogy as well. But we'll really be partnering together to create an implementation plan that really monitors, what we're seeing in classrooms, how we can inform them, and then ultimately, certainly student data as well.
How long is that process?
Can we move on a little bit to the others, and we can always come back, or they can always write to you, but we don't have infinite time for all the questions. So I'm gonna go to Ms. Sylvester.
Yeah, a similar question around implementation, right? I think we heard testimony today about the curriculum is great, they love it, but how we implement it is just as important. And I loved hearing about the professional development days, the embedded coaching, and I don't know if you mentioned planning time, but that's always critical as well. And as we are looking at budget season, I just wanted to make sure, as we think about our budget, obviously this is incredibly important because we know we need to successfully roll this out, and also our students desperately need it. So the professional learning that happens in the summer, that's a huge budget item that we need to make sure that we protect. The coaching tell me more about who's doing the coaching and any other costs that we need to be aware of as we work through our budget in the next couple months.
Thank you for that question. You'll notice in the memo that there are two costs to implementing this curriculum. There's the cost of the actual curriculum itself, and then there is a professional development cost. That professional development cost is for 12 coaches from Amplify who will come in and work side by side with our instructional specialists, with our principals, with our teachers, but also provide the professional learning. They're the ones that Amplify would send to us if we were paying Amplify, to provide professional learning. And so if we're able to engage with them for the entire year, then we can, get that launch training that, is established for the summer. They also provide ongoing professional learning to both instructional leaders in the buildings, but also to principals as well. And so that is that line item that's there in the memo around professional development is for the coaches.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else that we need to? We always want train the trainer, right? Because we don't want to have to be spending this every single year. We want our staff to have the capacity to then do the coaching in the future. Thank you.
And I will hope, I don't know where our math coaches are in this, but I will hope the math coaches who are, are they going to be trained also on this curriculum?
Yeah, our pre-K to 12 math instructional specialists, absolutely. But then also the cross-functional team instructional specialists that are out in schools each and every day, they're the ones that are, they're going to sit side by side, they'll be coaching, they'll be providing that right then and there professional learning that is, much more unique to just the large professional learning that we do for all teachers.
I'm going to go to our former teacher on our board, Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. But to be clear, I'm always going to be an educator at heart. So I am curious, what are some of the feedback that you've gotten about this curriculum that kind of showcase what are some of the potential downsides or pitfalls of this curriculum that we've heard feedback-wise?
Thank you for that question. I'm going to allow Sheila to answer that.
Thanks. I think out of the gate, one of the first challenges that we're going to face is really getting teachers and leaders oriented. This, the structure and organization of all of the digital resources that Amplify Desmos provides that are actually strengths may feel overwhelming in the beginning. So I think it's going to take some time to help folks really figure out how to use everything that's there. So that's probably one of our biggest challenges. Second, it's going to be making sure that they know which resources are intended for the students, matching the resources to the student need in the classroom, and then really becoming acclimated as to how to use the progress monitoring tools. Again, I think all of these are just elements of change and considerations as adults are learning a new environment, new tools, new resources. And in the beginning, they're going to be a little bit harder, but they'll get easier over time.
Great. And I think related to that, and it seems like we share an educator brain, because my next thought with that is what are some of I know we talked about some of the supports for implementation, but I think about that transition specifically, like what are some things we do to plan to support that transition, as well as things like how might our pacing guides look different? Like kind of what can we expect for our educators stepping into that?
So some of the tools that we've had positive feedback over the years are ones that we're going to want to continue that are integrated with the structures and processes and language of Amplify Desmos. So take pacing guides. We've had them by grade level and by module, as well as day by day, and we anticipate continuing and providing those as well. We expect to begin to partner with Amplify Desmos in the coming days and weeks so that we can begin cultivating those tools and resources now as we get acclimated to their orientation and their platform, and then we're able to put all of those pieces together. So again, the access to the materials that teachers have favorably looked upon that we know they wait for every year, we're going to continue to do. And then we expect that as we get better at being able to navigate the platform and point folks in those directions, we'll be able to modify support documents, such as how to prepare to teach. Where do I start? Where do I go next?
Great, thank you.
Ms. Stewart.
So just one more follow-up question about the implementation. Can you highlight what strategies are different than what we've used in the past during new curriculum rollout? Because that is something we've heard from our advocates. So I just wanted to, what's the main differences do you see in this particular implementation?
So I'm excited for this rollout because I think we have a really good shot at really bringing everybody in for in-person training to get them started. That was a space that was intended 6 and 8 years ago as we purchased our first curricula, and then we got a little derailed with that thing called COVID. But a full day of in-person learning that is tailored to meet the culture and climate and teachers of MCPS, getting them oriented to amplify Desmos as we partner with them to tailor their training so the teachers get time to really unpack that first unit and spend time this summer preparing that first unit so when they're walking into classroom on the first day of school, they know what they're going to teach and then have time in between, to use Stephanie's word, to let it marinate. I think that's going to be a game changer. Just starting with the in-person learning out of the gate is going to make a difference.
Would you like to add anything?
Well, and to add on to that, I would just add on that, we have the job embedded coaching that's happening right now with our cross-functional team instructional specialists. They are in schools, in classrooms every day, and that is certainly not something we had when we lifted Eureka Math.
And only one more question. You mentioned that there will be manipulatives for the, especially the younger students. I find that so important because that hands-on learning when you're in those ages helps make that mind real-world connection, right? So access to those might be something even parents would want, maybe even outside the classroom. So have we thought about having access maybe at libraries, anything like that, partners, so that there could be more access for families?
No, but that's a great idea. We like that very much.
Thank you. I think I got that idea from another district.
Okay, well, we take note, and we are very excited about all of the caregiver access opportunities. We do plan to do a lot of work with our families over the upcoming months, and so that is something that we will keep in mind as well, how we make that happen for families.
Thank you.
Ms. Montoya?
Thank you. I have 2 young kids, so I have a lot of really practical concerns. I share Ms. Yang, and I think there was a few other people nodding at the time about the tech concerns. I have a 4th and 6th grader, and at this point I can't see why they would ever need to have a Chromebook or a computer to do what I see them doing, right? We're not looking at like cool dimensional shapes or something where it might look better on the computer than if, well, I argue it would look better in your hand, but, right? So I do share that, and I know it's a concern shared by many in the community. We want our kids to learn how to use technology, of course, but there's also a balance there. Especially because we know, and I don't have the studies in front of me, but there's scientific studies that show the hand-brain connection, right? When you write something down, you're more likely to retain that than if you're typing it, et cetera. So I just want us to always be mindful of that. But I have a question about space on the paper. So sometimes my kids have come home and there's like so many items on the paper that they're already overwhelmed before we even get the pencil out. Where there's not enough space to even do the work, to figure it out. So they're trying to smash it, and now the numbers are smashing in. And, of course, you can tell your kids, okay, let's get some paper, but who wants to have extra paper when the other kids are doing it on a sheet, right? So I just want us to be mindful of those things, especially because we do use a lot of tech now, and a lot of kids don't write as legibly as maybe they did even just a decade ago, or write small enough. So we can't simultaneously be pushing them onto computers for everything and then say, here, now write and fit it into all the space, right? So I just want us to be mindful of these practical elements. The same concern I have about language demands. Math is so much reading now and vocabulary.
And comprehension.
Everything is in a word problem. And I get it, because life is basically word problems, right? So I understand. But then we're also creating this whole other hurdle for so many of our students. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with whether or not you can speak English, right? There's just so many issues there. So I just want us to figure out how we're going to address these concerns, because obviously workbooks look the way they look and there's only so much we can do about that. But these are very practical things that we see at home, including how are we going to provide parent and caregiver access for families that do not have consistent technology. Right, I know I actually went to review all of the materials because we are a math family. And so I know even when my kids were even just a little bit younger, they would come home with like packages of manipulatives. Right, we would send that home, or when they were learning hundredths and tenths, right, we got all these tiny little things because they're all over the house. But you know, all these little squares and hundredth blocks and whatnot. So again, I can appreciate perhaps in some ways the ease of technology, and I don't know, maybe it's cheaper too, I'm not sure these days, right? But it is really important for our kids and families to have access to those things on a consistent basis, because parents and families absolutely want to help their children at home, and that is always where we should operate from. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montoya. Ms. Wolf.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I want to be sure I understand the implementation. And I've heard it. I know I'm a little bit tired now, but I wanted to be sure this 1 day of training for teachers in the summer, is that what, am I understanding that correctly? I'm not sure how that is going to be enough training.
Correct.
You also mentioned the cross-functional team coaches. Now, when are they getting their training if they're going to be coaches for the training that the teachers are going to have on this 1 day? And I might have missed it, I'll be honest, but if you could just go over that again, because I'm a little uncomfortable about the level of training that we're thinking about.
I'm really glad that you asked that question. So the cross-functional instructional specialists, as well as the instructional specialists from our pre-K to 12 mathematics department, will start training immediately. And, you know, we will start working with Amplify Desmos. They will be, you know, positioned in a way in which they can support teachers. So the teachers, yes, will have the 1 day training. The 1 day training is really to acclimate to the platform, to better understand the structure of the actual math blocks itself. But then, you know, teachers will have the support during pre-service, you know, and really have that, you know, like Sheila mentioned, having that unit planned out, you know, going into, you know, their first day with students. We'll work really closely with Amplify Desmos to create a professional learning session for our teachers where they do, you know, experience the platform, all the resources, but also start that planning. It'll be really important that our cross-functional team instructional specialists, as well as our entire pre-K to 12 math team, really be trained first and have a solid understanding, and then, you know, partner with the Amplify Desmos coaches. You know, our vision for the 1 day training really is someone from MCPS, someone from Amplify Desmos, you know, working shoulder to shoulder and providing the professional learning to grade banded groups of teachers. You know, we will include special educators, we will include English language development teachers, you know, so we'll be really thoughtful and intentional around the way in which that professional learning happens. But then also we'll support leaders so that when teachers are, you know, in classrooms and getting ready during pre-service for that first day of school, they'll have the support of their math leader, of the content specialist, of the resource teacher to really continue their professional learning and you know, give them the opportunity that they need to be successful in that first day of school. It is a lot, I know, it's really complex.
No, I hear you.
It's not.
Like my fellow board member, I have a degree in math, and I can't imagine going in for that 1 day of training and then school opening the next week and you saying, here, go for it. So it would help me to see this if I saw a professional development plan, you know, a plan that included more days, when they're going to get further training. I just am a little uncomfortable with the implementation. And as we know, that is the real key to making this work. We need consistency across our schools and fidelity.
We can provide you a professional development plan
timeline
that starts with our internal folks for the next few weeks, starting through the summer and all throughout the school year, and how we're going to be working with teachers.
Thank you, because I'm very concerned about the classroom teacher.
Yeah, let me clarify something, because I think that this is getting lost in the 1 day
Because everybody's lights went on suddenly?
Yeah. think of the one-day training as the initial engagement with this. There's no way that this can be one and done professional learning, and the secret to this is more on the job embedded side. We learned a lot from the CKLA implementation, both positive and some areas to grow. There's definitely a footprint of providing some exposure, and then the follow-up piece. We heard about that even in testimony, how important that follow-up component is. But think of the one-day summer engagement as like a starting place and an opportunity to get acclimated, and almost like an acclimation day before diving into the day-to-day rigors of what to expect on a more consistent level.
I think that is that's very important. It's the diving in day to day that I'm concerned about.
Are they not diving before the school starts, or we're not diving until after school starts?
We have a pre-service week that can be utilized for that as well, but they've got to start somewhere, and starting somewhere with it doesn't make a ton of sense for us to do like a week long, like effectively like everything all at once. That hasn't been effective for us in the past. And if anything, it's overwhelmed people, and the feedback that we've gotten from teachers when we've done that has not been very positive. And so we do need to slow roll some elements of it to get people acclimated to the new platform. It's very different, it's rigorous, it's hard, and it's going to raise expectations, and we need to start somewhere.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. So I have not asked my question yet. And following a little bit on that, I'm getting a little anxiety, but at the end of the day, you guys in front of us are the experts, and you're telling us that this is the best practice to be able to implement based on the feedback that you got from teachers. Did I hear that correctly? Okay. So we're not in the classroom. And I am going to trust you blindly that what you're telling me is going to work. Because if it... Well, I mean, we have to... You guys are the ones who are going to be driving the bus in a sense. And we're going to be approving this curriculum with the understanding that you guys have all your ducks in a row, and that, we understand there might be a little bumps on the road. I mean, with anything new... But, let's say, you have quite a few of those teachers who missed the implementation. I will hope that there is a way for them to be able then to retake, or, to have a makeup day. But all those things are in your area of expertise. What I do want to say is that I do have some concerns about the family engagement. I don't see a plan for it. You say you're going to do it. I would like to hear a little bit about the partnership that you have with the Division of Community and Family Engagement. What does a timeline look like on that? Because I think it was Ms. Montoya and a couple of us feel not every family has website access. Not every family is engaged. You have moms who work 2-3 jobs, and they're single moms, and so on. And we want everybody to be able to have access to this. And honestly, I don't know, even if I went into this Desmo thing today with the math our kids are taking, if I will be able to help my child with some of these math. It's like beyond me, the way math is not done the way it used to be when I was a child, okay? So I just want to see what that plan is, because I know we have heard from other organizations, the Black and Brown Coalition and others, that even the report card when it comes to math and so on is sometimes, well, is my child doing well? Is he in the middle? Is he like, so I just want to hear what you have on that.
So there are some huge wins, and I'll let the team elaborate here, but one of the benefits of the materials provided by Amplified Desmos is that some of the video content and even daily summaries and the problems can be accessed via mobile phone, not just through a computer per se. So they're formatted in a way that there's even a mobile access. So our saturation with mobile phones is a lot more thorough than the saturation with just internet devices and computers at home. So there's some other things if you all want to elaborate.
Yeah, so mobile phones, we also are able to provide families with paper pencil packets as well. They're not called packets, but paper pencil resources that they can use at home to support their children if they need to do that. So we can have that available. And then we can provide you a plan to involve the Family Engagement Office so that we are having some face-to-face engagement with families who would prefer that method of communication. We can certainly provide you that as well.
Yeah, and I will hope you have other options to do some of this also online or on Zoom for those
Certainly.
families that cannot.
That's already planned for.
Okay, that would be great, because I'm just thinking, even just to kind of to get into the space, you know, where do you click, where do you go, how do you access, just these basic steps, I think will be very helpful for a lot of families. Ms. Yang?
Yes, I'm just reflecting back on the CKLA, our reading curriculum implementation. After, I believe, a year and a 2 year, we have an implementation preliminary evaluation, and after 2 years, we have implementation. I think that is very important, so I'm thinking, Dr. Edison, I'm channeling her, that please have that for us. I think that's more, we don't see the day-to-day, that's to help us see how this is going, tangible. Okay, so, and last is a comment. I think it's not directly related, it's not about the curriculum adoption, but family want to know, now the state has a new math standard expectation, how are we going to plan out the math pathway? I'm getting a lot of questions from compacted math families. When would you tell us what's going to happen?
We actually want to come back next week on Thursday to the next board meeting to share with you our plan for how we're going to accelerate students with this curriculum. So that's our
All
plan.
right, so I look forward to that. And I hope your presentation will include the whole pathway and whether it will be cohorted criteria or non-criteria. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Montoya?
Thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit about the and I'm going to say this wrong because I'm not an educator, basically how teachers will be able to serve their students who are emerging multilingual learners or perhaps receiving specialized education services. I think it's scaffolding. Is that the right term?
So this is one of the really exciting features that I've noticed across many of the products, honestly, that we reviewed this go-round. For those of you unaware, 8 years ago when we did the search, this is my second time on this rodeo. And what's really exciting is that every single lesson has built into it at least 3 resources for teachers to select or integrate that match the grade level learning and that day's learning objective. They have what's called a support, which is a foundational resource, so it'll go backward into previous skills. They have a strengthen, which is additional ways to deepen the learning of that grade level piece. And then they have a stretch to take kids into an extension or into the next grade level.
And would the stretch be, Mr. Peel's not here, but he was talking about kids who are on grade level, but they still need a little bit of a challenge or a little bit, okay, great.
And then it can—
In case you're watching at home, Mr. Peel.
Great, thank you for making that connection. In addition, it has daily language objectives so that as the teachers are preparing their instruction, they're thinking about the math and the language simultaneously, and an entire bank of language routines, math language routines,
so like
with
vocabulary
recommendations.
Words? Like vocabulary words, for example, or what do you mean?
How to use them, how to have the kids talk to each other, what the conversation structures should look like and sound like that match whatever that math is. So that way they get practice talking and then practice writing.
Okay, and so I think that sounds great. But I guess I'm wondering for our students who could be in any level of math, but they don't have a strong command of the English language, and we know that there's just, I mean, it's basically word problems these days. How do we help them get over that language barrier? Because they may be excellent at math once you pull the numbers out.
that's where some of these tools around the language objectives and language routines are really designed to do exactly what you're asking, so that the students learn how to contextualize and decontextualize what the math is asking for. Like, what is this on the paper asking me to do, and how do I figure it out, and how do I grapple with it with reasonable challenge with another student in the class or on my own, and then get feedback from my teacher.
Okay, because I'm just wondering too then, from thinking about the at-home piece, right? If you have perhaps a parent or a caregiver who doesn't speak English, are they going to be able to help their student at home? I know you mentioned some things in Spanish, which is fantastic, but we have so many other languages that are spoken in our school system, so I don't want us to just get in this binary thinking that we only need English and Spanish.
So we only have Spanish at this time. It's the other language. So we will have to think through how we provide additional supports for families who speak other languages. But I do want to say, because you are correct, this is a language-heavy, language-rich curriculum, which is what we need as we see that that's what students are exposed to when they take state assessments and things of that nature. Our EML department is focused, as we've been working with our administrators, we shared with them that our focus for next school year will be on language objectives and how you take what students are supposed to know and be able to do, and all the language that goes around along with it, how they plan for that so that students can break that language apart and really understand and still maintain that grade level expectation. So that is actually our focus for next school year for our EMLs. And we'll be working with our professional learning office to support this as we move forward.
Okay, and then just last thread on the language challenge, even for students who do speak English, sometimes the word problems are just a context that you don't know. If you ask me how many yachts are in the whatever, and I don't know what a yacht is because I didn't grow up in a space where we talked about yachts, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I just, again, I didn't see every single page in these instructional materials, but just for, I guess, our educators who are in the classroom to be mindful of that you might have a student that just doesn't have that experience, right? And that could be in any testing situation. Thank you.
For my colleagues that still have the lights on, please let this be a new question. No more comments. If it's a question, you go. There's no question, we still have a very long agenda because we still have to discuss curriculum development of 12.1. So, Ms. Sylvester.
Question, no comment. Question, and Ms. Montoya kind of touched on this. I think with Eureka Math, we had feedback from teachers about lack of cultural sensitivity or awareness. So can you talk about how this curriculum is different from that? Does this ring a bell? Like maybe just the yacht example that maybe some students don't know, have experiences in terms of what a yacht and what that would do to understanding a word problem, or
right. Well, some
just
students
the names,
think football, you play as soccer in their countries. You
the
don't play
names
with
that
hands.
you use when talking about word problems that were not reflective of our community.
Thank you for that question. One, the tool we were using, you're right about I'm going to call it the flatness of Eureka and some of the challenges that we were facing with the cultural context or lack of students being able to see themselves or relate to what it was they were engaging with. There's an aspect of the rubric that the state requires as you're evaluating new instructional materials, because they want a degree of high quality instructional materials where you're literally looking at these materials explicitly for whether or not a variety of students and a variety of communities are going to see themselves in the materials. And that surfaced much better here than in many of the other products. It's another reason that Amplify Desmos rose to the top of the pile pretty quickly in terms of names of students, the images they're using, the context of the problems in which the students are engaging with mathematics, just cast such a wider net than we had seen, than we definitely saw in Eureka, but then we saw in most of the materials that were that were brought our way. And so that was absolutely one of the critical aspects that we were looking for, that list of 164 people that were looking at the instructional materials, some of them had that part of the rubric explicitly, and the feedback there was pretty good.
Thank you.
Ms. Stewart. I didn't get to the screen question before, so I just wanted to close that up. So I visited some algebra and geometry classes, both in middle school and high school, and I saw our practices were all over the place. Sometimes kids were like hiding behind a screen and not really doing much at all. Other times I saw screen being used with discussions, and other time I saw 0 screens in a 9th grade EML class, but decent engagement. And so if I visit after this gets implemented, will I see those math discussions more happening equitably across different ages and stages, for instance, with an algebra curriculum?
I think you will, and I think you will for 2 reasons. I think you're going to see it because we as a district are moving forward with a much more unified approach to what our expectations are going to be for what's happening in the classroom. That's number one. And number two, that is a strong consideration for why the state is moving to the integrated model of algebra and geometry as well. So I think by putting the confluence of those 2 events together, you will see significantly more interaction among and across students as they're interacting with the math.
It is my understanding that having these math discussions and using that language that you talk about is what really builds the skills. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And they have to be able to speak it before they're going to be able to write it.
Thank you.
Ms. Zimmerman, and that would be the last question for this.
Thank you. My question is also related to the technology and the use. My understanding is that we're using it sparingly and it is to inform next steps in instruction. But I'm wondering about our student data and how that's utilized and ensuring that that stays internal and that it's not utilized by Amplify additionally.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, we'll work through all of our data privacy when we develop the contract, but they're aware of that even when they did, submit their proposal.
Great.
Absolutely.
Related to that as well, I'm thinking about our educator screen time too, especially when it comes to things like the caregiver guides and things. In doing that work with Amplify, I'd really like to encourage not adding additional things to our educator plates. So things like making sure that's something automated so it's not something else to do at the end of your school day. So just something else to keep top of mind for you.
Sorry, can I just ask what you mean, like getting the guide to the parents? Is that what you mean?
My practical thought is that if you teach lesson 1, day 1, that it's possible that, then there's a fire drill and we don't get to the end of lesson 1 and all of the things. But if we're asking our educators to release that at the end of the day, that's something else for them to take care of. And when that goes home, that I'm asking for us to think about how can we automate that so it's not something at the end of your school day that you're adding.
I'm sorry, I'm just not.
To release the
You guys are
caregiver
talking in
guide
school
to-
and school talk. Can you help us
Yeah,
out?
so on the slide that's visible right now, some of the caregiver information, daily video, summary, whatnot, to think through how we might communicate with parents on a more global and more scripted
Okay, and that's
way
what I was
versus
wondering.
trying
Like,
to-
for example,
Yeah.
the 4th grade math teacher shouldn't have to then get on there
right.
after school and send out this every day. Right, exactly, and I agree.
Okay, thank you. All right. I appreciate the presentation. Thank you. And now I'm going to ask
I'm gonna.
for the result. No?
We've got this in 2 parts, but
Do you wanna
it
keep-
may be good to get this one done and then move on.
Yeah, I think if we can vote on this one,
Yep.
and then we can vote on the second one,
Okay.
I kind of.
So, I got it if you want, or you can. Thank you, Chief. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the adoption of Amplified Desmos Mathematics for pre-K through Integrated Algebra 2, and may it further be resolved that the President of the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools be authorized to negotiate and execute agreements in an amount not to exceed $29 million in the first 3 years for the purchase of required instructional materials, professional learning services in support of Amplified Desmos mathematics implementation. May it further be resolved that the superintendent of schools be authorized to execute all other documents and grant any approvals necessary for this transaction.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the math curriculum. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
No discussion.
Oh, do we have the discussion?
Yes.
Didn't we just discuss
Discussion
this?
from the policy
Oh,
committee.
that's right. Discussion from the beautiful policy committee, Miss.
I appreciate that there may be a need to address through policy processes around curriculum development that may conflict with each other as the system's approach to curriculum development has changed over the years. As chair of Policy Management Committee, I intend for our work plan for the 26-27 school year to include review of the curriculum development suite of policies. I understand it's like 6 or 7 different policies that we need to bring under one umbrella so that we can understand them and it makes sense. So that we're ensuring that these processes are appropriately aligned with the board's policy objectives.
Thank you so much to our Vice President, Ms. Wolf. Are there any additional comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the math curriculum for approval of resolution, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous and it passes. Thank you very much.
Okay, part 2, as the board is well aware, one of your most important duties as board members is to review and approve curriculum for our schools. This is a very different look than what you just, the process you just went through. This is the curriculum development side of our curriculum approval process, and our Chief Academic Officer and team will walk you through what we have. Dr. Hewlett.
And thank you. Good evening. I'm here today to bringing forth the request for the board to begin revising curriculum across 4 content areas. Next slide, please.
No, I'm good.
As we can see on the slide, we have a plan to revise curriculum for ELA and humanities, general music, health and physical education, and world languages. Each of these areas require revisions in order to fulfill our commitment to providing standards-aligned, culturally responsive, and rigorous curricula. It's important to note that the Magnet English Language Arts curriculum will be for the 2 Magnet programs at Eastern and MLK. Our general music, grades 6 through 8 curricula is more than 5 years old, so that it is due for a revision. So is our French 1 and Spanish literacy grades 6 through 12 curriculum. Our health and physical education grades pre-K through 12 just has to go under revision because of new state standards approved in February and March of this year from MSDE. So we have to bring our curriculum into alignment with what MSDE is asking us to do. So that's what we're here for. We're asking for permission to get started with writing. And once we write said curriculum, we will come back for approval to implement per the implementation plan outlined on the slide.
Okay, any
questions?
Do we have any questions from anyone?
Would you like me to read
I have a question. Question?
Sorry. Do we do discussion before the resolve or after?
Yeah, if you read the results, we have a motion, and then open that for
Correct.
discussion.
Yeah, so Ms. Stewart, hold on for a second. So we're going to have Ms. Nikki Porter read the resolve.
Okay. Resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Education approves the initiation of the development and revision of curriculum frameworks in 6 through 8 music, French 1 and Spanish literacy, pre-K through 12 health education, pre-K through 12 physical education at Magnet English Language Arts and Humanities, and be it further resolved that the staff in the Division of Teaching and Learning will return to the Board of Education with final curriculum frameworks and implementation plans for the reference content areas prior to system-wide implementation.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
There is a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Stewart.
I have a question. It's not about a curriculum on here, but when will we be looking at science curriculum?
So our science curriculum is currently going through an evaluation. So I would imagine very soon, once we finish said evaluation and we know that our curriculum needs to be updated. So I imagine when we come again in the fall, we will be asking for permission to write for science. That it's going to be somewhere around that timeline. But science is coming.
Okay, I look forward to that. Thank you.
I have a good question, and it's, is there any reason why we're doing our own curriculum? And I have to tell you from past experience, I don't know how long we have not reviewed these, but from as a parent from former students, and I'm talking specifically the ones that the Spanish literacy 6 through 12, for example. I'm just very leery because I'm going to tell you, we don't have a very good track on some of it compared to other counties. And I would like to know why we do our own curriculum, because just in the past, we have not done very well in that area. And there is plethora of other counties that use curriculums that they get, that they, that in my opinion, I'm sorry, do an incredible job with these areas. And I just would like an answer for that.
So for the curriculum that you suggested, I know that, and we have Ms. Vandenplas in the audience. I don't want to misspeak. I think what we are doing is ensuring that we are aligning our curriculum writing to the resource that we purchased to provide some supports for our teachers. So it is coming up with the scope and sequence, the guide, a daily plan to support the resources that we are providing to our schools as well. Ms. Vandenplas?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm Françoise Vandenplas, Pre-K-12 World Languages Supervisor. Our Spanish literacy course is a precursor to our SSS course suite, right? So I actually think that we are probably one of the few counties in Maryland to have a Spanish literacy course. So I think that this is something that we really need to be proud of. We are also one of the few counties that have a series of courses, SSS1, SSS2, and SSS3. So there are not many resources out there. It's not a package deal. Because the course is a 6 through 12 course, finding a textbook or a curriculum that is available and adequate for kids in grades 6 through grade 12 is very challenging. So we have a textbook, and then we MCPS it. We like to do that.
And I guess my issue with that is the implementation of it then gets muddy across the district whenever we have our own curriculum. And I'll just speak from personal experience. Kid, same age, taking the same class at a different high school, not the same standards, not the same curriculum, sometimes not even the same material. So I guess my issue is, how are we going to ensure that this is standardized across the district?
So we actually have summer professional learning scheduled for this summer. This is also going to be a topic of discussion with our local world languages resource teacher and content specialist on how to ensure that we have a tight implementation. We are also writing a standard operating protocol.
Oh, you are? Okay.
We are.
And the last question is, have we looked at, I know you say it's challenging, and there's a lot of things in life that are challenging, but I want to see, have we actually looked at curriculums that could fit this. And if you can say to me, Board Member Rivera, but the cost is so significant that we'd rather do this, I'll understand. But if we haven't, I do have an issue with that.
No, we have looked at what is available out there. We actually, when we created our Spanish literacy course a couple of years ago, we looked at a curriculum from New York and looked at what they were doing and were inspired. And again, MCPS did. The funding is an issue as well in world languages, right? World languages is not funded at the same level as other content areas.
Correct.
So we have to make do with what we are allocated. And sometimes that's, again, challenging.
Okay, thank you so much for your honesty. I really appreciate that. Ms. Montoya.
Thank you. I would like to speak to the health curriculum because I received a very well-written email from a student at Walt Whitman High School, Tabitha Rojas Razo. And she was asking, well, she was actually letting me know about the challenges for teenagers these days with social media and digital, just being digitally literate. And so Ms. Rojas Razo has a wonderful idea, which I agree with. Is it possible for us to include digital literacy and those aspects in the health curriculum? And, you know, I know sometimes, at least in elementary, when my kids go to media, they learn like an elementary level of kind of some of that, which is fantastic. But I am, you know, this is obviously a huge mental health concern. There are books and things written about it. So I'm just wondering if that is a possibility.
So as we are working to rewrite and you know, move standards, et cetera, that is definitely something that we can consider. We have Dr. Grant joining us at the table to talk a little more about that.
Good evening, everybody. How's it going?
Good. Hello. Tell me something good, Dr. Grant.
I will tell you something good as we have dinner together. We're going to have a collective intelligence, mindfulness nourishment here. I'm so excited that you asked that question. It's a huge issue, and just even how predators are even leveraging social media and digital spaces against our youth is horrendous. As a result, we've had digital literacy in our curriculum for a long time, pre-K through 12. We leverage the media team as well as a partner with Common Sense education resources that are built through the pre-K through 12. In addition to that, we have explicitly embedded content and curriculum with our health literacy skills. And so we have like content first, standard 1. Then we have like accessing valid and reliable information. And then we have analyzing influences. So that's 2 of them, as well as interpersonal communication.
Where does that live, though? That lives in the health curriculum, or does it live in, you know, because again, I think after elementary, we don't have media special anymore,
Yes.
right?
So actually, the digital citizenship goes through 3 content areas, well, many. I'm going to shout out ELA, social studies. Anytime students are researching online, then they take that component when they're researching projects and papers for valid and reliable information. As you know, in the current climate, there's a lot of mistruth being spread in media.
Global humanities, for example, I know has some lessons in that for the 6th graders.
Exactly. So it goes across ELA, social studies. Explicitly, you'll find it in the attachment from this item today. If you go to PE and health are combined in one PDF for what the State Department is requiring. And if you search that document for analyzing influences and accessing valid and reliable information, you'll find that in addition in standard 1, there'll be subcomponents and outcomes that specifically address those as well. And I'm happy to talk further too about it.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe
Super
I'll just
passionate.
follow up with you. I think it is important to frame this to our youth as a health issue, as a public, I mean, it's a public health issue, crisis in my opinion. So I just really appreciated Ms. Rojas Razo's kind of injecting that into the conversation.
And anytime a student reaches out, please send them to me.
Oh,
too.
fantastic.
Usually students reach out, then I engage with them one-on-one at their school or via Zoom, and I pull them into our advocacy platforms, our school health council, our student-led school health council, and other advocacy projects and ways to like uplift public health from their seat.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even realize we had some of those options, so I just really appreciate. Maybe we'll have to learn a little bit more about health.
Well, anytime somebody,
Yeah.
any stakeholder reaches out,
Okay.
just
And I have
send
a
them
quick
my way.
question about music. What does general music mean? Is that band, chorus? Like, what are we talking about here?
Oh, me? Oh, yes, sure.
I thought I saw you back there. Trying to hide from me. No, I'm just wondering because music is a lot of things, right? So I want to make sure that the community can understand when we talk about the curriculum.
And if you can be brief, that'd be great.
And introduce yourself, please.
I will, and I will be brief. Dr. Randy Rumpf, Supervisor Pre-K-12 of Visual and Performing Arts, AKA Fine Arts. So the difference with general music is it is more or less a non-performance-based, non-ensemble-based opportunity for students. At our middle school level, it tends to get into focusing on 5 of the main musical elements, whereas in high school, general music tends to gear you towards more guitar and piano. However, down the road, we hopefully will address those as well so they're not so much performance-based and can increase access for students who are not performers.
Great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And just, Ms. Stewart, your question?
Yes, back to health. When was the last time we updated our health curriculum?
Long time ago. No? Oh, okay. Well,
sorry,
I'm just gonna
my
ask
mic
about-
wasn't on. My mic wasn't on. Oh no,
How long has it
please.
been?
Yes. Actually, in 2020, the last MSDE update to the
that is
framework.
a long time ago in a sense.
Yes, it was 6 years ago, but ongoing. So we take at least a year to develop, and then we have our curriculum rollout plan that's been going on. So right now, this summer, grade 3 is receiving a refresh reboot as well, and then K2 next year. As well as we had Health A and Health B rolled out recently, aligned to the MSD 2020 health education curriculum. So it's in pace with the relative guidance from the State Department around 5 years.
The reason I ask is because we've had a lot of change in laws, even since 2020, about what is accessible in families, for instance. Now you can get marijuana gummies, and there's more access to vapes with THC, et cetera. So I don't know, are we aligning our curriculum to have more education for our kids? Because it's just out in the community now, and sometimes it comes into our schools.
Yeah, I think I can help because my 6th grader learned all about that this year in health.
I did not pay her for that advertisement. That was an unpaid advertisement.
Was that 6th grade? So
yes.
Are we planning on going younger than 6th grade?
Yes, it's in elementary on concepts. So the State Department has the topics. The skills are through pre-K through 12, but the actual topics like alcohol, tobacco, nicotine, marijuana, those topics are in elementary school. Anytime there's a legislative mandate or update, the Maryland School Health Council, that I serve on that. I also co-run the Montgomery County School Health Council with Carrie Dwyer from HHS. Anytime there's a legislative update, anytime there's any change that would impact a health topic, we're on it. We sit on over 20 subject matter expert stakeholder groups and councils, and then we also have our lesson drafts vetted through HHS or subject matter experts to make sure they're updated. So even if it's not an MSDE update, if it's like when cannabis became legal in the state of Maryland, we updated our curriculum to show alignment.
So Dr. Grant, I don't want to cut you off, but in the interest of time, I want to point out that this is the approval of this resolution is to cut them loose to develop this work, not to dive into the topics.
Correct.
Oh,
So-
okay, gotcha.
Correct.
I just get excited.
Yeah, so we will definitely have to come back when you look at the curriculum that has been developed for approval and go into detail to make sure that all the discrete topics have been covered.
Understood.
I appreciate that, and when you do that, please get rid of some of those 1990 videos that the kids complain so much about.
There should not be in there.
Okay, good. Ms. Anuba agrees with me. Although some good music, and if you're gonna do that, do the 80s. But
Yeah, when the VHS tapes went, so did the videos.
If we can actually then read the resolve, that would be great.
Oh, we did.
No?
I read it.
Now for 12.1, can we, okay, so it was all in there, so we can just vote? Okay, then is there a motion?
Yes.
And a second, okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you so much. Okay, then we're moving on. 13.1, fiscal year proposed meal prices.
I know, Madam President. This is not the most fantastic topic to bring to the board for consideration, and especially in fiscally challenging times. After over a decade break in raising meal prices, we are coming back to you for consideration for next school year, and putting forth a recommendation to help put us on the path to getting back up to par with what the USDA expects for our meal prices. The Department of Food and Nutrition Services provides breakfast and lunch to Montgomery County Public Schools students and operates an enterprise fund, taking no funds from our operating budget to ensure continuity of nutritious meals for Montgomery County students, and that the Department of Food and Nutrition Services continues to operate as that enterprise fund. A meal price increase is absolutely critical in order to maintain that status. It's important to note that a meal price increase only would apply to students who do not receive free-priced meals. We will continue to use a multi-layered approach, optimizing the use of federal and state programs to offer free meals to qualified students and qualified community eligible schools. The last meal price increase occurred in fiscal 2015, so over a decade ago, and it was a 5-cent increase to our meal price. We have the lowest meal price in the region presently right now, well below the industry expectations. Increases in labor and food costs have resulted in a 53% increase to the Department of Food and Nutrition Services expenses in fiscal year since 2015. So we have a lot of ground to make up. So therefore, I'm recommending a 30-cent increase for this upcoming school year to both breakfast and lunch. This increase equates to roughly $2 million in projected revenue and is necessary to start the process of bridging the revenue gap and to avoid a structural deficit, and to stabilize our Food and Nutrition Department Enterprise Fund. So there's not a presentation, and because we've already done that at your work session. The resolved is very simple for your consideration, and we do have staff here to answer questions. The resolved that the meal prices for fiscal year 27 will be $1.60 for breakfast and $2.85 for an elementary school lunch and $3.10 for a secondary school lunch.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel. Ms. Wolf.
Yeah.
We need to have
Motion.
motion first, then discussion.
Motion second.
Yeah,
so
you just
sorry.
asked for a motion.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Wolf.
Yeah, I move that we postpone consideration on this resolution until the May 21st business meeting to allow the board to have a better sense of the economic conditions and fiscal realities of the operating budget for the 26-27 school year.
I will second that motion.
The problem is
I'm
there's
sorry, just
already a
process-wise,
motion.
there's two motions currently on the table.
That's why I was trying to.
So this would be a substitute motion that you're offering.
So it's a Correct. Substitute.
And someone other than the president has to second it.
Second.
Yeah, I got,
Correct.
you know, this is close to my heart, so.
Second. I second
Thank you,
Ms. Wolf's
Montoya.
motion.
Thank you, Ms. Montoya. So now there is that motion that first, and it's been second, to postpone this resolution until the May 21st meeting, correct?
Is there discussion?
There any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam President.
All right, moving on, 14.1, fun topics. Okay, school year calendar, proposed amendments for 2026, 2027.
So we did have some really awesome, exciting instructional conversations earlier in the evening. We have shifted to the operational pieces. And I would actually classify this as a positive step in the right direction in adjusting to state expectations that were late coming, and also taking an opportunity to hear from our community and to make some adjustments. We brought those changes in state regulation to the board for your consideration at your last work session. We made a recommendation to get something out to the community to solicit some feedback. Our friends and residents and neighbors were not shy in providing that feedback. And as a result of that, we've made some modifications to this recommendation. And one of the more significant modifications was to start at our original start time, taking the feedback from our community. So today I'm bringing a recommendation for amendments to the 2026-2027 school year. Following the inclement weather and emergency closures experienced this past January and February, the Maryland State Board of Education issued updated guidance and requirements requiring additional review of our next year's school calendar. On April 16th, the Maryland State Board of Education shared with all of our local education agencies these updated requirements for next school year. And also ruled on waiver requests at the state board level. These updated requirements include several things, and it's important to enumerate them because it's a lot. 6 total inclement weather and natural civic disaster makeup days are required if the local education agency, like Montgomery County Public Schools, does not have an approved virtual plan. And 3 are required if the local education agency has a virtual education plan. And it's important to note that those 3 days need to incorporate days that are already in the school year. So that's a big shift.
Yes.
As you know, you have an approved virtual plan, which reduces our burden somewhat. The last day of school, inclusive of all inclement weather days, so this includes potential makeup days as well, must be scheduled prior to the Juneteenth holiday, which is observed on June 18th in 2027 in our next year's school calendar. Calendars must also include makeup days within the spring semester. So this is a challenge for what we have done historically, as many of our professional learning and non-instructional days have fallen on days that are also religious observances for some of our residents. And now that is required to be as part of our snow makeup day and civic disaster makeup days. The Montgomery County Public Schools 2026-2027 inclement weather virtual learning plan was adopted by the board at your business meeting on March 26th. And as a result, 3 inclement weather days and natural/civic disaster makeup days are required. At the April 16th, 2026 board work session, which was just a couple of weeks ago, we discussed proposed modifications to the school calendar, focusing on an option that would begin much, much earlier in August. We have revised that based on community survey feedback and from the thoughts that have been shared by staff, families from around the county.
The members of the calendar committee were also reconvened in order to provide additional feedback. We would like to share a special thank you for them for serving on that important committee. And also thank our student member of the board, Anuva Maloo, who also solicited feedback from students via social media. That was incredibly helpful because that feedback all aligned with the rest of the community feedback that we received. This revised recommendation for the 2026-2027 calendar is reflective of feedback received and maintains compliance with the most recent guidance from the state. It adds instructional days in 2 marking periods. It complies with state requirements regarding identified makeup days in the spring semester, and it ends the school year on June 11th with additional identified potential makeup days prior to the Juneteenth holiday as outlined by MSDE requirements. I just want to conclude by saying there's no perfect calendar, and there are options that we can and should continue to explore. One of those options, and one of the things that surfaced in feedback, was the idea of looking at an earlier start, but not one with such short notice. We absolutely appreciate that, and we thank our public for being so clear with their feedback on that regard. That there may be interest in that in the future, but for this upcoming year, we agree that it's a little too late to make those kind of changes. So we will read the resolved to kick us off.
Thank you.
And to get us moving on your discussion and any questions that the board may have. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the amendments to the adopted 2026-2027 school year calendar and contingency plan for Montgomery County Public Schools as reflected in Attachment A, which is on our screen right now.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Is there a motion?
Motion.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second to approve the resolution to table. Is there any discussion? Oh, wow, there's a lot of discussion. Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. Short and brief and to the point, okay? No storytelling, no when you were little, nothing, none of that. Short and to the point, okay? All right. We're going to start with Ms. Sylvester.
1, 2, 3 questions on.
Oh, no.
I could have asked my questions by now.
No. You go, Ms. Sylvester, 1.
Dr. Taylor or Ms. McGuire, could you explain the use of the virtual days in the calendar? When and, I mean, it's not part of the plan, but it's a tool in the toolkit. Can you talk more about that?
That's right. Thank you, Ms. Silvestri. So the board, as we've said, is required to have a virtual plan, and you did approve that. And so the virtual plan really would come into play as an additional tool if there were, for example, an anticipated large number of days that might come up. We could plan for that and use that as a way to offset some potential future days. We are still required to have the days identified in the spring semester and the number of 3 days and potential days to extend the year. So it can't replace those. It does reduce the requirement from 6 to 3. But I think it is the kind of plan that would need to be used in a way where there was a closure that we could anticipate with enough time for families and staff and students to have the materials and the anticipation to be prepared for the virtual learning.
So it can't be used instead of the snow days? So
No.
what, it just, the good of it is not for the calendar purposes, it's just so that the kids continue to get some kind of instruction.
And so again, if we dial back to, I think if you had a couple of one-off snow days, then that might not be an occasion for the virtual plan. I think if which hopefully we don't have the same kind of snowcrete experience in a future year where we anticipated that there would be multiple days off, that's one where we could plan ahead and say, okay, these days we may call virtual, so we would anticipate that, and therefore we would have fewer days to make up because the virtual days would be in place of those that might have been taken off. Does that make sense?
Okay, I think so.
Thank you. I have heard some community discussion about Transition Day, and I see that we've preserved it in this iteration of the calendar. Can we hear a little bit more about why we've chosen to keep it?
Absolutely. We learned a lot from our first Transition Day last year, and the feedback for those that participated was strong, in particular our parents of our kindergartners, sixth graders, and ninth graders. We have a lot of exciting things that we are thrilled to add to this year's Transition Day. I think as a majority of our community has that experience, I think as they know more about it and learn more about it, they will probably feel differently about it. But for our transitioning grades, it was a huge success for us.
Ms. Yang?
Yes, so this is interesting new year with the state setting some guidelines. I am looking at the Thanksgiving week. That is the week we have 2 half days, and then we have some days off. I have been in the system a little bit longer, and I seem to remember in the past, we don't always have the day off, or it will be a half day, right, pre-pandemic. So as we go forward, can you share a bit about the attendance for that week and any thinking for future years of how to best use that week for instructional purposes?
So thank you. And as you said, we've taken a different approach in different iterations to that week. Part of the the early release days on the Monday and Tuesday of that week are associated with parent-teacher conferences, and it has been a long-standing practice to have some early release days for those conferences. At one time, those occurred earlier in November. Then it was determined to move them to that week as a potential way to have more flexibility for families, as well as, again, potentially less disruption to the instructional program. So that practice of the early release days with the parent-teacher conferences then just becomes a little bit of a question of where we would place those. To your point, though, that certainly is a week where we know often families do make different choices related to their travel. And so, again, balancing all those things together, this is the approach that we have now. Certainly can look at that in terms of what's the right approach to balance that in the future.
Ms. Stewart?
So first of all, I want to thank everyone for all the extra work that this took to get this together. I know it was all very last minute, and I want to thank our community for responding to us robustly, and I hope they see that we did actually listen and try to come up with something. My comment is, or a question is, about the, we changed the, which day we protected as far as the Eids go. And so the Eid on, I believe, April 12th marks the end of Ramadan. And then there was also the 17th, that's also a makeup day. And I just wanted to elevate that. I did hear that both holidays are very important, but that the, I don't know what you heard from the community as far as these particular days.
So if I could just clarify that April date, April 12th, is actually associated with the
right.
quarter marking period. The other
March 9th.
The
Sorry.
March 9th date is aligned with Eid al-Fitr, and as you can see, that day has not been identified as a makeup day. The May 17th is aligned with Eid al-Adha, and we did indicate that that could be a makeup day. Again, as was said, there really are no perfect options, and as we've discussed, one of the things we were able to do was put 3 additional instructional days in the first 2 marking periods, which certainly is beneficial from an instructional standpoint and helps us not start as early, and it also helps us end a little earlier, which again may set us up for the next year. But there is a requirement from the state that we have makeup days identified in the second semester, and those are just very challenging to identify.
I'd also like to point out that April 22nd
Yes.
is also a makeup day, which was originally for Passover. And again, none of this is a perfect solution, and I would encourage us to convene an even larger group of community members in preparation for the next calendar, so we can have these discussions up front, and we're not going off the back end and having to make these hard decisions that's more reactionary. So not our fault, but it's just something to look forward to next year.
Ms. Montoya.
Thank you. I will not be supporting this calendar, but I did want to be clear about why, because it's not that I have an opposition to the original start date of the school year, because I don't want families missing out on money and things like that. That totally resonates with me. Teachers, we have things planned, totally understandable, so that part's fine with me. My concern is actually all of these extended release days. So in that week in November, you have 3. No matter how hard our schools try, like, those are just not meaningful days of instruction. And if the goal here, I know I send my kids to school to learn. So when we have 3 days in a row of early release, and I'm sorry, I said extended, of early release in a row, there's not much going on. But of course, I'm going to send my kids to school because they also don't want to miss a day of school, et cetera. And then we have another one on December 23rd, which is also an early release, and again, the same thing. Now, these days also create a lot of challenges for families and parents and caregivers, and as someone who missed the beginning of this meeting because I had to run home to pick up my son from school and get him home, and then get back here to work, childcare is expensive. It is lacking, especially as your children get a little bit older, because people think that they hit a certain grade and now they can just watch themselves, which is not true for all children. And so it creates a lot of challenges and a lot of missed work, and that still disproportionately also falls on mothers. So I have a really challenge with the way that we are creating hurdles for families, especially we talk about low enrollment, and, well, it's really hard to be a parent these days. And I just feel like as a school system, we should try our best to not add to that. I also have to say, and there was a big discussion about this at the board table, because the Latino community celebrates their holiday in December on December 24th. It's Noche Buena. And we are a third of the school system as students and families. We have many staff throughout our school system in all areas and levels. And I mean, I just feel like Grace and I fought really hard for that this year, because you cannot travel to see your family. You cannot prepare. The meals we make take a long time. And so the idea that, well, we were looking at the community feedback, okay, but we often say here at this table that even if you don't make it to the boardroom or the board inbox, et cetera, that we are still going to consider your concerns and the things that your community needs. And so I don't feel like we did that here. And while I will try my best to make sure that we submit those surveys next time, that should not be what determines that we then lose a day that we fought really hard for our culture and our communities. So I cannot support this recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, call for the vote.
One thing. In the future, can we do 2 years in a row and not do year by year? Can we?
Absolutely can do that.
I think that will help families plan way ahead.
That would be great.
We at one point we agreed to do that. We have been we sidetracked.
Thank you, Ms. Yang. Okay, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That would be Ms. Stewart, Ms. Sylvester, Ms. Yang, myself, Ms. Wolf, Ms. Zimmerman, and Ms. Anuba. All those against? That will be Ms. Montoya. And the motion carries. Thank you so much. Final action policy GCC, background screening of MCPS employees, candidates for MCPS employment, contractors for MCPS, and volunteers. I will turn over to Vice President Wolf as Chair of the Policy Management Committee. Ms. Wolf.
Thank you, President Rivera-Oven. On April 16th, the board received a presentation on policy GCC, background screening of MCPS employees, candidates for MCPS employment, contractors, and volunteers. This is a new policy that establishes requirements for fingerprinting and other manners of background check for employees, prospective employees, and individuals who will otherwise work in schools or on school grounds. During the discussion that followed the presentation, the board requested updates to the policy to address the availability of reduced or no-cost fingerprinting in certain situations. Additional language was added to the policy, which will now be recommended for full board approval. Before we take the vote on this item, I will ask staff to come forward and identify the changes since the last meeting.
Good evening, members of the board, and thank you, Ms. Wolf. Today, we are before the board to review updates to policy GCC in response to public comments received and concerns expressed by the board. And so we're going to review those comments for the board's adoption. I'll turn it over to Dr. Renee McCall, Chief of the Division of Human Resources and Talent Management.
Thank you, Leslie, and good evening, everyone. A couple of weeks ago, as Ms. Wolf mentioned, we provided an overview of the feedback from the community as it relates to policy GCC. We wanted to just remind everyone of the background screening requirements for volunteers. And if you just draw your attention to the right side of the slide, only those volunteers with unsupervised access to our students are required to do background screening, which involves fingerprinting. So much of the feedback from the community was related to the barrier of cost. And so we developed a procedure here that outlines exactly the process we're going through as families who are, again, experiencing some financial hardship to provide an opportunity for those fees to be either reduced or eliminated. And as a result of that, we have added links to our volunteer webpage, as well as the background screening webpage that, again, includes a form for families to fill out, and we will assess those needs on a case-by-case basis. And then language was added to policy GCC, and all of that can be seen on the screen here. And with that, I'll hand it back to the board.
Thank you. Do any board members have any additional questions regarding the policy draft? Okay. If there are no additional comments or questions, I will ask Ms. Turner Percival to read the resolved.
Resolved that the Board of Education adopts Board of Education Policy GCC, background screening of MCPS employees, candidates for MCPS employment, contractors, and volunteers, as updated in the response to public comments.
Thank you. As Chair of the Policy Management Committee, I move that the board grant final approval to Policy GCC, background screening of MCPS employees, candidates for MCPS employment, contractors, and volunteers.
Thank you so much, Vice President Wolf. The motion of the chair on the committee's recommendation, note second is required. Is there any discussion? Ms. Montoya?
Can I just make a slight request? Can we please, because the parents are not watching this, especially not at this time. I would not be watching it, no offense, if I was home with my kids right now. But the idea of when they need to pay or not, even though it's been said many times, we had a slideshow presentation, I remember it, it still comes up. And so is it possible to provide this information to just another, like the PTAs? Because if maybe we're hopefully talking about it at open house, and then the PTAs can send it out too, and you know what I mean, the more times the better. Thank you.
I appreciate that feedback, and we'll definitely take it back to our volunteer liaisons, and they'll share that information more broadly.
The only thing that I want to say is that I just want to make sure that our implementation of this policy is aligned with our equity policy as well and access. And I just want us to be very cautious that we're not implementing things in a very overzealous way with communities that, for example, might have a refugee status, so they don't have a Social Security. So if they go for a fingerprinting, they're not going to have a Social Security. So if we're going to require that, that is to me really not a good use of our equity policy. Or you might have a family on TPS who also might not have a Social Security, but they have a work permit, they have an ITN number. And those should be considered as valid ways to be able for us to fingerprint folks. Because if we're not considering those factors, we are creating barriers that are unnecessary for our children to have their family or loved ones, because it might not be always a mom or a dad. It could be an older brother who graduated from MCPS who might be able to go and accompany that minor on a field trip. So if we can please be very much grounded on those things, I would really appreciate it, because I did get some comments from community members that was a barrier lately, and needless to say, I was very unhappy to hear that. So hopefully that is just miscommunication, but if we can work on that, I would be appreciated. Ms. Wolf? Is that? Do I give it back to you?
No, I already.
Are you done? Okay. Well, thank you very much for.
Take the vote.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for all of you to work on it. So I'm going to take the vote. If there's no further discussion, there is a vote on it and a second. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous with those present. Thank you very much. Is this it? I'm so excited. Okay.
I can read these information reports to you guys out loud if you want.
That's okay, Dr. Taylor. God, you're so nice, but you know what? No.
Send it in an email.
Yeah, send it in an email to us. So these are for information only, so no actions required. So then we're going to go to item number 17. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third. Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you very much to everybody and to your colleagues and the people at home who are watching. Have a blessed evening.